hour into the video is no question on the table.
All right, well, let's get quality of life improvements out of the way. Um, Hopefully, we don't have to go into a part five, but we may, due to changes, we may need to. Um,
Hopefully, we don't have to go part five, but I'm just saying, it might happen.
I mean, if this one's like 2.5 hours, we might actually be able to get it done.
All right. So we're on quality of life changes.
Yes, we are still recording. You didn't like reset it, right?
Okay, yeah. So this is a separate recording after the test, but nothing. We
Okay.
didn't say anything during the test, so it's fine.
Yes, sound test. We were just testing mics.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so hey everybody, we are doing part four, I believe, right now. So
Yes, I believe there's only three parts up right now.
yes, we finished the gameplay section, which included level design, enemy design, progression, bosses, character control, kits, that kind of stuff. So now we would be on to section four, which is quality of life improvements slash expectations. Now, quality of life improvements is obviously going to be a first, but I do need to give like a rundown of what that means, obviously. So this can be anything from basic mechanics that you see in the series to, well, since it includes expectations, I would assume also, I guess, writing. Um, but it's going to be more so over gameplay because those things that are much easier to talk about and much more accessible. Like, for example, like what one DMD looks like as opposed to another, like what the mechanics of enemy step in one game works like as opposed to like how many resources it takes per the red orbs to buy one ability per the other and so on and so forth, the style system.
We're gonna have an
Oh yeah,
economic discussion about DMC right now.
well, considering I actually forgot to talk about the style system in gameplay, we're definitely going to have to cover that in quality of life improvements. I can't ignore that because it does have its own issues. Um, but yeah, do you have anything you can think of? Because I'm gonna go right into it if you have nothing to
Uh,
start us off with.
as of right now, I don't really think I have anything to really go into on.
Okay, so let's say as far as quality of life improvements, I would think that like we can talk about like the good and the bad. Well, um, good things I would say. Difficulty modes for one. I much prefer the higher difficulties of DMC5. And the mechanics that are implemented in them as opposed to the prior games like DMC4, for example. Its DMD um, wasn't great. It was way too easy. Nero had way too much damage output, and those enemies very clearly designed for him. But again, his bringer, like the bringer being a main mechanic and having like a shitload of damage, just kind of negates a lot of their tools and their arsenals to deal with you on a higher difficulty, combined with the extra slamming effects from DT and Blue Rose. You just had so many options. It has the same effect in this game. It's just enemies' health on DMD and Son of Sparta has been increased significantly. So most minor enemies don't just get one shot by things. Yeah, you have stuff like the Buster Breakage, but like realistically, you're not going to be taking the Buster into every minor enemy boss fight or minor enemy fight because there are better breakers to use for a variety of circumstances than using something that's again just a slightly stronger Buster move when you already have like a bringer on you that you can cap with like DT. Um, I would say that the enemy spawn rates and like the specific enemies that spawn are a general improvement over fours. I know some people may disagree, given that like there are enemies in four like the Angelos and the Mephistos that do challenge you in the air more so than in five. Um,
Yeah, but that
but
doesn't.
like
That's not entirely better. I mean, with this,
yeah, I mean I will say that like four does have better. Well, it does have better aerial enemies. The
I
amount of like
I don't know,
the,
man.
the the specific, well, it does.
Mm,
Angelos, Mephistos, they're pretty solid enemies that exist in the air. Five does as well. The Sin Scissors, the Pyrobats, the Hellbats, the Ice Goats, which are one of my favorite enemies, just because of like the shield, the projectiles that they get. Like as soon as you break the shield, you get the reward of like comboing them to death. Like if they make a mistake, they get to pay for it. You make a mistake, you get to get sniped. Seems pretty fair and equitable to me.
Busted.
Um,
Broken.
yeah.
Not
Well,
balanced.
the black goats though, they're not like that. Complete opposite. Most of the time, even though like I've seen some criticisms of the enemy spawn rates, like what enemies spawn specifically. More often than not, there are plenty of enemies in this game that will challenge you in the air in various locations. So like, even on higher difficulties, it's not anywhere near as bad. Um, I guess outside of that, I would say that for DMD, this is one of the DMDs that I can be fine going through as far as like just sheer raw damage because now Dante doesn't feel like he's hitting his sword hits like a pogo stick. Yeah, sound effects in DMC4 were top notch in regards to like Rebellion's hits. They really felt like you hit something. Problem is that a lot of people and a lot of people, especially in the subreddit Discord, seem to be under the impression that Dante actually does do damage because the sound effects in the game make it sound like he's doing damage.
Yeah, I was gonna say
That's not
DMC4
true.
Dante did not do any sort of
No,
damage.
no, he had less stagger values overall than Nero did. Like he did less stagger damage to the enemies, and a lot of his timings for Royal Guard on the ground were shit as well. Gunslinger was nerfed into the ground. Um, ugh.
Guns as a whole were
Uh,
just kind of useless in DMC4 outside of Nero.
yeah, well, I mean, there were some like they were useless outside of like specific combos and like specific setups. Like generally speaking, as like a gun, like a tool that you could use to like zone people or you could do for heavy damage. Like except for pulling out Pandora for like a super long windup, it just wasn't.
Just
Yeah,
never
so
happened.
Dante in this game has like ample amounts. He has so many different ways to do damage. Cerberus does like electrical damage to stun enemies. Balrog with ignition and buffs does insane amount of damage. DSD combos so many enemies. Doctor Faust, meteor shower, the red orb barrier. Like there are so many ways. Kalina and double Kalina and I don't think we need to talk about the kind of damage that that does. It's actually disgusting. And on DMD, it fits right in. Sin DT also works perfectly on DMD. I thought it would break the entire balance of the game. Nope. It's like DMD is where Sin DT thrives. It's delicious. Um, just the sheer amount of damage that you can do to most of the enemies, that and the fact that like you can kill a couple more enemies before most of the DTs of the enemies activate, so it's a little bit more liberating than a little bit more liberated than three's DMD. Although they do have more health on average, you can do more damage in proportion to their health than you could in DMC3. So even though they have roughly, I want to say almost, I think a little over 3 times the amount of health that they had in 3's DMD, you just do way more damage. So you can like feasibly kill most minor enemies. It's just, I guess that kind of gets into like the problems of some of the difficulties because quality of life improvements we do need it. Part of that is the negatives. So I think that's most of the positives I can talk about. There's obviously going to be some things that I've mentioned that I've missed because there's just so much to talk about. One of them would be the negatives. DMD mode having 800% health. Okay, so
Wait, so is
while
that confirmed 800% health?
yeah, it's around roughly 800% health.
Oh, that's just
So
gross.
it doesn't feel like too much when you're fighting basic enemies, but then when you start doing like a guns only run, or when you start using like mostly guns on Son of Sparta, because you know you just like guns, you're like, oh, Gunslinger works right now, let me use it. You're like, hey, they have a lot more health than normal. You're like, yeah, yeah. Like the other day, I was playing some, literally like yesterday, I was playing some DMC5 and I was broadcasting it on my Xbox account for a friend. I was showing her some Hell in Hell mode, and Hell in Hell mode is scaled to Son of Sparta difficulty. So this is like 100%, maybe 200% less health than DMD. And I hit a Proto Angelo with a Buster Breakage after him with like several overture blasts, a ragtime breakage, and like multiple like seed launches and a blue rose charge shot, and then he almost died. So that was on Son of Sparta with no DT activated on him.
All that setup, and then he almost died.
Yep, he almost died. Granted, I know it's Proto Angelo. He has an insane amount of health, but this is kind of the point I was going to get into. The mini bosses on DMD are super fucking tanky. And while I do say that Nero is designed very, very well for DMD, like DMD is a playground for him. It's great. If you're experienced, if you know how to dodge, you know most of the enemy patterns and the mechanics of interacting with their attacks via the breakers, DMD will be a fun time for you when you're not fighting a mini boss along with the mod fight. Like mini bosses one on one are fine. Like yeah, Proto Angelo has a shit ton of health, but like I'll take him on in a one on one. It's just the problem with DMD generally is that the enemies have just enough health to be a bother to you, so that you can't focus your attention on killing all of them at once. Because as soon as you do, then the mini boss targets you. You have so many threats that you have to address, and too many of them have too much health and stagger that you need to like get past in the moments where you're attacking other enemies and you're vulnerable. So it's like, oh, I have to resort to just using breakaway to save me that does basically no damage, or DT, which does basically no damage for its cancel.
Well, at least it is a full just fucking escape, you know.
Yeah, no, perfect cancels are excellent. I'll definitely go over that. So I actually now I have an idea of what I wanted to mention for quality of life improvements. Probably the style system, specific moves from characters' kits that were carried over, and then like DT mechanics, some other things. Those would be the main ones, and then like currency. But continuing on with DMD's mechanics, the DT, like I said, the DT mechanics are better now because you can kill a little bit more enemies before the DT mechanics, before the countdown starts, and afflicts more enemies. Because in this DT works the same way. DMD's DT mechanics work the same way that DMC3 and DMC4s do, in that you kill a set amount of enemies and then a countdown activates as soon as you kill one enemy. And then, or at least, no, as soon as you kill one enemy, as soon as you enter an area with enemies, and then once you kill a set amount of enemies, that the countdown gets bypassed and every enemy in the area gets DT.
No,
Now, if an enemy gets spawned in by another enemy, though, they have a new countdown reset, so they won't have DT, which is what makes spawning enemies like Gluttony on the Hell Greed on DMC3 really interesting on DMD mode, because he spawns in significantly weaker enemies that don't have DT mechanics, so you just shred them. The similar thing you'll notice will happen with the Hell Judica when he summons in like Hell and Torres or the Hell Canas. Like they're so much weaker than everyone around them because they don't have DT coming in, and they're just basic enemies. That being said, like again, I don't feel like, I know this is a difficulty modifier, but I just feel like we're giving way too much health to some of these mini bosses. Some of them have ways to manage them, yes, like the Send Scissors. You can time the scissor jump and like just one shot him. But Proto Angelo doesn't have something accessible to that. The Lucicina, the Black Goat, or Lucicia, whatever it's called, the Black Mini Goat spellcaster thing, that thing has way too much fucking health as well. The Behemoth on DMD mode, oh my god. Like, I thought it was bad in Son of Sparta or in Bloody Palace. That thing on DMD mode takes an eternity to kill. And that's if you have Nero with the Buster Breakage, which is like the strongest damaging move in the game outside of Meteor. Like, practically speaking, it is the strongest damaging move in the game, because it takes like 2 seconds to activate it, and it doesn't require a wind-up like Real Impact or a million years of banking Royal Guard energy and then hitting someone with a Royal Release, or, sitting there waiting in Dr. Faust in Gunslinger, charging the Meteor. Like, again, some of these attacks may do more damage than Buster, but Buster, well, only Meteor does. Real Impact and Royal Release don't. Breakage is just accessible. You can just equip the breakage, activate it, and then slap somebody with it. And then, bam, free damage. But the fact that I can do that and then the behemoth's not dead is like wrong.
Yeah,
I
Behemoth was just a fucking. We already talked about this, but Behemoth was just a fucking terrible fucking
Yeah,
enemy.
a terrible enemy. That just gets worse, and that's kind of the point that I wanted to mention. Like every enemy that doesn't have good reasons, good utility for why you want to exist, aka like the riot being like a good combo enemy that like actually fights back and challenges you in the air or on the ground, or like the pyrobats or the hellbats challenging you as aerial targets, or like the Scudo Angelo being a shielded enemy, teaching you to get behind enemies or break through their guards. Like their utility doesn't get removed on DMD just because they have more health, because they still have manageable ways to deal with them. Granted, the stagger from DT makes it a little bit harder, but if you're Nero, you just bust through them with Exceed or Bringer Knuckle. If you're V, you summon Nightmare, or you hit them with the canes, or you charge one of Griffin's charge shots. Or you teleport to them, direct their attention while your summons just trash them with the amount of damage that they can do, or any one of Dante's stagger mechanics, or any number of his like Cerberus abilities, Balrog abilities, the shitloads of damage and stagger that he can do with Kalinan. There are so many ways to approach these basic enemies on DMD. It just takes a little bit more time. It's really not that tedious. If you played Son of Sparta, the difference is it's not that significant, even with the DT. The problem is the worst enemies. It's the same issue with every DMC game, is that the worst enemies on DMD or on lower difficulties become way worse. Like their flaws get it's kind of like looking at a game or something that you see to be really, really, really good. The bad parts of it stick out really bad. DMD is a personification of that, because everything bad gets way worse, because now everything bad that you see survives much longer for you to evaluate what's bad about it. The behemoth survives like 4 or 5 times longer for you to realize how fucking terrible and atrocious that enemy is, and it does way more damage. We're just talking about the health. We haven't even gotten into the damage or the aggression that they have.
No, the damage output for fucking the Behemoth in particular is just fucking atrocious.
It is utterly insane. Like Nero is the only one that has like feasible ways to interact with the behemoth due to his bringer animation, but even then he can't like use it in quick succession. Granted, that's probably good because that prevents you from completely melting the behemoth on lower difficulties. But again, he's like already a poorly designed enemy, so I think abusing him is the least I deserve.
It's the least you could give me, Capcom, for all the shit you put me through.
If I had to mention enemies that I think are also pretty bad on DMD, Impusa Queen, when the Impusa Queen is not, when she's backed up by other enemies.
I mean, but Impusa Queen's just shit to begin with.
Well, not really. Like again, there are a lot of moves that she has 1 or 2 specific moves, like her swings, that have like really weird and awkward hitboxes.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest, like the jump, the rush, the grab, parts of those can or cannot be bad. It depends on the situation that you're in. But a lot of them that I found, like a lot of the Impusa Queen spawns that I found that were pretty like indefensible, were spawns where she spawns in a room with like significantly stronger enemies, or enemies that have like a completely different application than her. Like if she spawns in a room with like 4 Hellbats on like one of the Nero missions, and you're just like, oh, I have to take out a squad of ranged enemies with a giant tank that's running at me. Like, why does it feel like I just entered like an RPG or something? This is not.
Like, what the fuck is this?
I mean, I'm Nero, so yeah, I have tools for every situation, but maybe Capcom, maybe you didn't realize that I might not have had the right breaker at this moment, and I'm going to have to break away, either breakage or most likely break away half my arsenal to get to the things that I want, just to take care of the Pyrobats, while I'm running from an Impusa Queen that's jumping to the moon and then back and slamming down and hitting me with this massive hitbox. Like, I can't have a threat that's boss level that has the health of like a boss from Devil Hunter or Son of Sparta chasing me around the map with slightly, well, marginally stronger enemies that can now take a little bit more time to be staggered, just enough time for her to make time to get to me, while they're also sniping me, and there are multiple of them. So
Perfectly balanced.
yeah,
So it should be.
I think DMC3 like had its own problems when it came to some of the mini bosses. I guess if we consider the Fallen mini bosses, absolutely,
I
but
wouldn't consider the following mini bosses personally.
I would just because of how much of a threat they are. like um
I mean,
that
like
and the
they came in groups though. Like if they weren't in groups, they like even when you
well,
fought
they
one
only
fallen, it
so
was just not bad.
the Fallen only ever came in pairs.
Yeah,
That was it. Like
yeah. So
you
like,
could never spawn more than two.
I'm pretty sure I fought
So
three at one point. I'm pretty sure it's an area where you fight three.
no, I don't think you fight three ever. Most of the time, if you do, it's like maybe one occasion. The overwhelming majority of the times you fight two, and then two of them despawn once you kill them, and then two more spawn, and then that's it. That's usually how you fight them. You don't fight like three at a time.
I'm pretty sure. I think it's when you immediately come out of the motorcycle. There's three in that room.
The motorcycle?
Yeah, you know how Dante goes up the fucking. You remember how Dante breaks the lady's motorcycle? Like you know how he drives up
Oh no
and
no no! There's two. I just played that mission the other day. There's only two in that
is it
section.
just two?
Yeah, it's just two. But when you kill them, two more spawn.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say because I remember you fight more than fucking just two of them there.
Granted, you can't. I think you can fight three if like you don't kill one of them. But I mean,
The only other area I can think of that had three would be right before you go fight Arkham.
mm,
For some reason, the back of my mind as you're going through those white steps, I feel like you fight a
in
third
Mission
one there.
18 they spawn as well. They also spawn in Mission either 16 or 17 when you're getting the. I think it's when you're getting the moon and the sun pieces, and you fall into one of those pits, and you fight several abysses, and they get backed up by some fallen.
Yeah, well,
Um,
no, I wouldn't personally call it fallen mini bosses. They can be annoying, most certainly, but I don't think they're all that. I don't think they're that bad.
do you consider anything in DMC3 to be a mini boss? Like
In
any of the lesser enemies?
in DMC3, honestly, just the
Yeah.
abysses.
What about the Hell Vanguard?
Hell Vanguard, he's easier to fight than the abysses. Like I understand he is literally a mini boss because he was a
Uh,
boss earlier, but he's
well,
super easy to fight. He is way
I
easier to
wouldn't
fight.
consider him easier to fight than the abysses because I'd take two abysses over
He's
like Hell
no,
Vanguard.
no. I'll fight a Hell Vanguard any day because his parry is so much. His parry is so easy to do. The only problem is his hitbox when he's teleport slicing. That's a little wonky, but you can just double jump and you'll like avoid almost all his
Yeah,
attacks.
but I'm saying like I'm usually taking it like not in a one-on-one scenario. In a one-on-one scenario, well, first of all, an abyss is way easier to deal with because they have way less
Yeah,
health
I'll
than
say if
he
we're talking
does.
health, but like I'm referring to like the actual abilities and like the actual mechanics of the boss of not of the
Well,
boss of the
I
character.
mean, the parry, yes, if you're doing like the jump cancel, but as soon as he starts teleporting on, specifically because on DMD and DMC3, it adds multiple teleports to him. Like he doesn't just teleport once or twice like
Yeah,
he
he'll
does in the
teleport
Lord
like
of Winds.
fucking like five
He
times.
teleports like three times every interim, and then as soon as you don't attack him for like a second, or if you do, he starts teleporting away and just starts teleporting. He teleports probably more times than Virgil does,
Yeah, no, no, no.
and
Yeah, I
his
played
is
the
way
enemy.
more effective and way more threatening.
I wouldn't say his is way more effective. I would say his again. It's just that his hitbox attacks are a little wonky with him in particular. It's not really so much that he himself is far more effective. It's just that
I
his
mean,
fucking
unless you have
bullshit.
Trickster, like,
Oh, Trickster, you mean the one you should always be running? Absolutely, I agree 100%.
um, I'm just well. I guess besides those, I would say probably the what's it called, the Queen and the King on the chessboard, and then I mean, Gigapede is technically a lesser demon.
He? Oh yeah, because he fucking
No, no,
chases
no.
you with
Well, no,
fucking.
Gigapede's the boss. Like,
Yeah, no, no,
I
I get
get
what you're saying, but I was trying to remember. Wait, when the fuck do you fight Gigapede
Hell,
outside
Hell
of?
Van Hell Vanguard is definitely a lesser demon. Like he's also a boss, but he's also a mini boss. I don't know why they labeled Gigapede as a lesser demon. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Maybe because
Um,
he's fucking trash.
yeah. Sorry for the tangent because we are like
Yeah,
jumping back and
we're
forth,
supposed
but
to
I'm
be
just
talking about
trying to
games you like.
provide an example of various mini bosses that exist from other series. And I will say that most of the mini bosses in this game on DMD, luckily, the first places where they show up, like where they're introduced, you usually get to fight them on a one-on-one scenario. Or if you fight them with other enemies, they're kind of minor. Like V's first encounter with the Impusa Queen is fine because all there is a bunch of like baby Impusas nearby. Like they're nothing. They're trash. They're garbage.
Oh,
But
Mangler,
then
take it
like
easy.
when you fight the Impusa with Nero and like one of the missions, I think it's like mission 15, I believe. When he's going to Malphus,
I think so, yeah.
um, when he's inside the Qliphoth moving, it's not when he goes to fight Urizen, it's afterwards. So it must be that because it's not 3 warriors. The Impusa Queen spawns, and then you got to fight all those Hellbats. And then that one small enemy, that one small green Impusa that's like, hey, let me play medic. And you're like, please, no. So,
Leave me the fuck alone.
I mean, I said I hate the Lucichia, but like the Black Goat spawn, when it spawns for the first time in 3 warriors, that's not bad at all because you got the whole chamber to yourself. I mean, those mechanics are annoying, but like
Yeah,
again,
I was gonna
you
say, still
only
like
have
the
to deal
most
with those.
annoying fucking enemy in the game though is gonna be there,
It,
looking
it
at
is,
you.
it is, but I'm saying I'm trying to provide an example where it's not too bad. So I'm wondering why they didn't do more of these things.
He
Like, why didn't they send
fucking
in like basic
breathes on
Hellcanas
you.
or either Hellcanas or like I want to say like Hellcanas, probably just basic Impuzas, maybe School del Angelos. Those would have been fine. That's all they needed to do to send a couple of these in with these basic enemies. Not send like 4 or 5 of them. Please no. Besides that, we already talked about the Proto Angelo.
I feel like
What
we
about the
already.
Death Scissors?
I kind of feel like we've touched on all the enemies, like all the enemies at this point, right? Like if we're focusing on
No,
quality
no,
of
no.
life.
We touched on the enemy design. We're just talking about quality of life improvements in DMD and how
Uh,
that affects
all right.
the mini bosses.
Sin
So,
Scissors had the best quality of life because there's an insta kill option for them that was not present in DMC1. So that is the best quality of life they could have given,
mm.
hands
I
down,
was also
100%.
gonna say that the Sen Scissors fights back in a way that I'm fine with. Like if you wait too long, it will attack you. If you attack for too long, eventually it will retaliate.
Yeah, it'll have
So
this. It'll have like the sword slash or the like. I don't know, called
yeah,
360-degree sword slash, something like that.
yeah, and it will also do like the very spin wind up. So I'm I'm fine with this on DMD mode. It's not too bad. Um, just again, a higher amount of health. So the Fury though, we got to talk about that one. Why is this? Why are certain? I think either certain enemies should have had more stagger added to them on DMD, or their health should not have been increased as significantly. The Fury is definitely one of those. Uh, I fought this thing on Son of Sparta. I think I hit it with 2 DT busters
And it
in
was
the
still alive.
animation, and it just took them. Granted, he still was like heavily damaged, but the fact that I can take out like 70-80% of your health after DT busters and you're still standing, and that was also after like a
And
couple
not
exceed
on
slices.
DMD mode.
Yeah, not on DMD mode, not with a DT activated either, because DT reduces all damage you take by 50%. So
If he
stack that
survived
on
that,
top
I'd
of
been
800
fine.
fucking percent health. Jesus Christ! It's no wonder the Devil Buster, like the Buster Breaker, is like one of the best breakers on DMD, because you just see the Fury and you're like, time to grab. Fury's like, I got this, and then he's just like, oh no, that's a fuckload of damage.
My personal complaint with the Fury, like I don't think I mentioned this in the talking about him the first time, is when you parry him, there needs to be a bigger opening for you to like
Oh
exploit,
yeah,
because he will
absolutely.
like if you don't hit him in time, he will immediately just fucking yoink out of there again.
And so his parry windows on DMD become even worse because they're unironically they're exactly the same, but the pressure from DMD
Yeah.
makes it seem way worse. Like the damage that you take from a single hit, you need to consider like the kind of anxiety, the kind of like problems that causes on a player's mind when they're running through a level and they take like a quarter of their health from a single hit. Like what's going through their mind when they see that, even though the parry windows are exactly the same. I think the DMD needs to be manageable. Again, I always refer to DMC1's DMD, where the enemies are pretty strong and tanky, but you can reliably kill them because the countdown for them is longer and isn't predicated on killing specific enemies. I do think the DT mechanic should be like relaxed. I think it shouldn't be half as much damage. It should be like 30% or something. It shouldn't be
No.
anywhere near as significant.
If they're already fucking gain a massive fucking health boost, you can fuck
Yeah,
off with
no.
that damage reduction.
Well, no, the health should have been decreased overall. It should have been like at most 500% or something, and then they could have just nerfed a lot of the other damage effects. It would have been fine. I would have been fine if they buffed the health of the bosses. That's fine because those are bosses, but not minor enemies. Not minor
Or at the
enemies.
very least, not every single fucking minor enemy.
Yeah,
If you want to
you
give the mini
buff Virgil,
bosses,
I'm completely fine with that. Buff Cavalier, I'm completely fine with that. Hey, you might buff Artemis, we can have a conversation about that. Buff Fury, we're not talking.
this is a non-negotiable. Get this out of my fucking sight.
There is nothing that you can do to convince me that that is a reasonable approach to game design with this game. And DMD does exactly that. It just makes him way stronger and way more annoying and last way longer. And now if you make a single mistake, you get punished far more than you should. So
I mean, that might just be a sign that while Fury's like original intention was a good idea, they just failed at making a solid ninja enemy. Because if he's really that, because he's bad more just because his basic shit is bad. DMD just makes it worse because you notice it more.
yeah, no. If the windows were more often and you could like hit him a couple times and then he retaliate, like I could look at him. I look at him and I see the design. Just to offer a comparison of the nobodies from Kingdom Hearts 3 right now. So they basically are designed similarly to the basic enemies in their game, only they retaliate when you hit them enough times. But it's the window, like the amount of times that you can hit them and the combos that you can do. You can usually do a combo and a small extension and a couple extra hits, and then they start breaking out and they get hyper armor in their retaliations. That's completely fine because you've done a feasible amount of damage. But Fury doesn't just do that. Like he's ready to warp and move as soon as he spawns in. He's in like an intangible frame. Actually, it's not even intangible. It's tangible to the extent that you touch him and he can't, like he physically is not there, and that just activates a pattern where he starts attacking you. So he's only there physically to start attacking you as soon as you hit him. Because when you move the camera off him, he can't attack you. So as soon as he does, he just starts warping around. And I just get flashbacks to the Dream Runner, and I'm like, this was bad, but at least the Dream Runner was like manageable.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would say Dream Runner was better than the Fury.
At least, okay, base reboot Dream Runner was way better than the Fury. Definitive Edition Dream Runner is a different story.
Every time you fucking talk about the fucking reboot Definitive Edition, I just want to fucking download it and play it. See, like if what you're saying is actually.
I know, no. It's a completely different experience. I think you should definitely.
I'll check and see if it's still on Game Pass.
Yeah, well, don't buy it off of like the store.
Well, no,
buy it off the
like I have the actual fucking disc. It was one of the first games I bought on Xbox One, but I never played it because I ended up getting
Right.
What was the game I got with it?
So let me see if I can think of anything else that was buffed by DMD. Oh, the nobodies. Yeah.
Nobodies are always a fucking annoying enemy. I didn't even fucking notice the difference all that
but
much.
on DMD, it's like, wait a minute. You had stagger, and then you also got bigger stagger based off the fact that your character got a little bit bigger, and you got this giant red hand that sticks out of your back. Oh, wait. You got even more stagger because of the DT mechanic? It's like this guy jumped into Dark Souls and grabbed like all the fucking poise he could and then jumped back into this game.
I'm ready now.
It's like, I cannot be moved by anything.
You're worthless.
Also, the Hell on Torres. Um, they're annoying, but like again, there are ways to manage them with characters. Dante can do shitloads of damage and just one shot them, or he can do setups where he stuns them, air combos them, zones them
I'm
away from a
pretty
distance.
sure. I'm pretty sure people are just gonna people are just gonna agree with the hell on Toro there. It's gonna be a oh, Darksiders 3 is on Game Pass.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure it's just gonna be a case of, well, some characters can manage it better than V, and then there's V.
Well, no, V on any difficulty lower than DMD can handle the Entours. Now on DMD, it starts becoming a little unfeasible because he doesn't have ways to stagger him.
Oh, whoa! When did they add
Nero does. It's just Nero and Dante. Well, Nero especially gets way too many of these Hell Entours with enemies like Riots and Hellcanas that come by that apply the correct amount of pressure, and then the Hell Entor being there fucks up the amount of pressure being put on the player because you immediately have to address this enemy. You cannot attack any other enemy in any order. And not in the way that you want, because any blue rose charge shot you do, that splash damage is going to hit the Untora. Any like major breakage you do, that'll hit them. Any basic breakage you do might end up hitting them.
Okay, so
Any
they
like exceeded moves you have a wide hitbox and will probably end up hitting them or aggroing them by accident.
they
This
did get rid
happens.
of the definitive edition on the Game Pass. It's not there anymore.
Yeah.
They had a Power Ranger though. Can't wait to play that later.
Not that this is related to the video.
No, not on Ranger 4.
I do think Nero has ways to handle him on DMD, but like again, friggin'.
I mean, like I've said before, I personally think the game was designed with Nero in mind, and the other two characters are just existing in it.
It was. I think it was done with Nero and Dante in mind. Just Nero primarily. If I had to say like to what degree, probably like
It's like
I'd say
it's like a 70-30% ratio.
I'd probably say 60.
Because it's not
65, 35 for Dante, and then like
it's not really that the game was designed with Dante in mind. It's that Dante's kit was designed to be so like generically covered on its bases.
No. The enemies. There were enemies that were designed specifically with Dante in mind, like the Scudo. Like, well, the Scudo Angelos for one were designed with him. The bats were designed. The
okay,
Death
so
Sisters.
what specifically makes these characters designed for Dante? So Scoldo Angelo is the one I'm a bit more curious on. I can understand the bats, and I can understand maybe what was the other one you said?
I was saying the Death Scissors as well.
Okay, I'm gonna need reasonings for both of those actually.
Well, Royal Guard was one of them. Royal Guard, the various like aerial movements of any of, I mean, take your pick from any of the weapons. Balrog's like flame kick, the Cerberus swings, the aerial raves from Rebellion. Like the fact that Dante has like the perfect moves to pressure Death Scissors and counter him. The same thing goes for Scudo Angelo. Like Royal Guard is designed for Scudo Angelo, for guarding enemies that wait and patiently attack you. Granted, you may have a problem with the telegraphs or their timing because you're fighting other enemies, but you cannot sit here and tell me like Royal Guard isn't.
I mean, but I wouldn't specify Royal Guard being made specifically for them. Royal Guard works on
No, it wasn't made specifically for them, but
okay. The point
their design is factored into Royal Guard being put into this game. Like,
I can see the reasoning. I don't think it's that strong. That's basically saying like, in any game where there's a slow-moving attack, it's designed specifically for you to block it.
I mean, all guard, it's designed to attack. Royal Guard is designed to block everything. So by default, it's designed to block the Scoldo Angelos.
Yeah, but so that's why I'm saying like it's not specific to the Scoldo Angelos. Whereas I could say every enemy in this game has a massive stagger animation that Nero can capitalize on. Therefore, every enemy is designed around Nero's mechanic of staggering.
Well, so can Dante. It's just the difference is
but what can Dante do when an enemy staggers?
Buster animation.
Yeah, see, but that's it though. Nero can do that consistently. What does Dante get when he staggers them? He just gets free area to attack them, but he can already do that normally. The game is designed around Nero. No, everyone else just existing in it because of things like that.
Hit them with a large move like Real Impact and do shitloads of damage.
I mean, but you can already do that without them being staggered. It's
Well,
harder, but you can do that. Now you can
yeah,
argue
it's
it's an opening.
significantly harder. Like,
Significantly harder depending on your setup. I will say depending on your
also,
setup.
Nero for most enemies doesn't need to stagger them to buster them. Certain enemies do.
So he can
A lot of
he
enemies
can
don't.
buster them without staggering. Remind me again, this game isn't designed for Nero.
Hell on Torres can be busted without staggering. Scudo Angelos can be
So
busted
you're
without
saying they have an
staggering.
opening that is unique to Nero that is not accessible to Dante? I'm
Well,
gonna say Dante because I know V
they're
has
open.
some
They're
instant kill
open to Nero the
mechanics.
same way that they are to Dante. It's just
Okay, but Dante
Dante
can't
doesn't have a ring.
capitalize on them at all. Again,
Well,
like, if you want to say the game was somewhat designed for Dante, I do disagree. I think it's just that Dante's kit is so like.
Dante can capitalize on the openings too. He just doesn't capitalize the same way.
Okay,
That's
but okay, so Nero gets a Buster Arm. What does Dante get in those frames?
literally anything in his arsenal. Like,
Okay, but
like
most of the frames you're talking about when they're not staggered are in the middle of attacks or after an immediate parry. Dante cannot do any move to immediately follow up that like opening except just slicing.
or dashing into other attacks, or animation cancels, or send DT,
Okay, but
or
so no, once you sing DT, the enemy's already going to be recovered. In the frame, Nero could have used his Buster Arm outside.
I
Again,
mean,
I'm talking in the moments outside of Stagger. If we're talking Stagger, yeah, Dante can do his move. But outside of Stagger, Nero and V both have options.
okay,
Keys are
outside of
non-existent.
stagger means multiple things, both during the attack and like.
Okay, so when can Nero Buster Arm the freaking the enemy you brought up? I can't remember his name right now. So give me an example
Helen
when.
Taurus.
Yes, Neon Tora. Give me an example where Nero can Buster Arm him outside of Stagger.
Whenever he wants.
So you can just grab him
Like,
out of
you
nowhere.
can literally buster the Helen Tor at any moment in time.
Can you?
Like, so if the Helen Tor runs at me, right,
Yeah.
in mission.
Wait,
Let me
hang
bring
on.
up.
Which one's the hell on Tora? Let me just make sure I know which one we're talking about
Okay,
here.
the guy with the butcher's knives.
Him. Oh, okay. I was thinking the fucking general dude. I was gonna be like, you can't buster him whenever you want.
Wait, were you thinking of the Judica?
Yeah, no, yeah. I was thinking of the guy who summons
No,
people. I was like, what the
no.
fuck are
The
you
Helen
on
Tor is the one
about?
with the buster knife. Yeah, so
Oh,
on
okay.
mission 7, United Front. There's like one of those stupid Clyphot pod things that
Yeah,
summons enemies,
yeah.
and it spams the Entours on this mission. I don't know why the hell it spams them, but it spams them. And one of the things that I found is that Nero has multiple different stun locks he can do. One of them is just pretty brain dead. You just grab them with the bringer, you slam them
Okay.
directly down.
Yeah. I was gonna say you can just fucking grab it. Yeah, those guys you can just grab forever. Except when they
Yeah, well, I'm
retaliate,
saying
I
he
don't
doesn't
think you
need
can
to
grab them without
stagger them. Like
retaliation.
Nero's like most of the enemies in the game suffer to Nero's bringer because they can't do anything. They
Yeah,
can't interact with him.
because the game was designed around Nero's bringer. That's why every enemy has this sort of
Yeah,
unique
but
ability.
Dante also has like more feasible ways to stagger some of these enemies without having a bringer.
Okay, so the hell on Tora, since now we can fucking now we know
The
the same
Scoodle
thing.
Angelo, the small Angelo with the shield, not the proto one.
I know which one Scoldo
the
Angelo is. Thank you very much. I just don't know the
All right,
Hells because the Hells all
the
have
riot,
stupid fucking
the
names.
riot,
I
the
know which
riot,
one the Riot is, Mangler.
the Hellcana, the Pyrobat, the Hellbat,
What
any
makes
of the
those? What makes
Luzas
the
that aren't
bat? What
red.
makes? Hold on, man. The bats are not specifically designed for Dante. They're more designed for Nero because Nero can grapple onto them and attack
No. I'm
them.
saying these are the enemies that Nero can grab without staggering.
Okay. I was gonna say, what the fuck are you on about?
Technically, okay. So the Bahamut can and can't. The Bahamut, like,
If
you don't
you're
have to
talking about the
stagger him, you
white
just have to
goat,
break his
you
shield.
can break him at any time, but you can't do that for the other one.
Well, the Bahamut, I'm just saying you can technically stagger him. It's just he has a shield. It's a weird like, because he doesn't get staggered sometimes when the shield gets broken because he's still levitating there, but a lot of times he gets knocked back on his ass. It's sort of the same thing with the Lusacina. The Lusacina I wouldn't use as an example because it's a mini boss that never gets staggered ever. Whereas a lot of the mini boss enemies in this game, I think Dante just does significantly better for. Like he does better. And again, like he actually has like proper stagger against most of them. I wouldn't say like I think some of them are designed more so with Dante in mind than they are so with Nero.
Which
Because
mini boss
again,
would you throw? Which mini boss would you throw into the
well,
ring?
Death Scissors would be one that I would throw in there.
What?
Fury as well.
Okay, so let's go. Okay, so let's start with those. What specifically does Dante do to Dead Scissors that you would say makes Dead Scissors design more for Dante, or specifically Dante in mind?
More aerial attacks that better
But Death
counter
Scissors can
these
get,
layers.
but the Death Scissors can get out of your aerial range. He can fly up higher. Nero's the only one
You
who can
can
actually
teleport
grapple.
to him.
Yeah,
You
but
can
he
just
can still move
teleport to him.
around. Nero's the only one
It
who can
doesn't
actually keep
matter because
pressure up.
you can literally be on his ass 24/7 and he can't run away.
No, your teleport has a cooldown when you're playing Dante, or your air.
Ever heard of enemy step?
Okay, so you're suggesting the thing everyone else has as well.
Nero doesn't have a teleport.
Yes, but Nero has a grapple that can reach practically across the entire fucking planet.
Yeah, but it's slower.
It might be slower, but it can be used more consistently in Dante's
By
teleport.
the time that Nero has gotten there, Dante has already gotten in like 2 or 3 moves. Like,
no, Dante's range is also slower.
Dude, I'm a Nero main. Like, don't even,
dude,
even think
hang
I'm
on,
down.
hang on. Let me see. Where's Devil? Is that you think Devil's awake right now? I don't know where he lives.
No. Wait. We're still doing a video on like DMD's mechanics.
I disagree with your bullshit, Mangler, and I'm pretty sure Devil would back me up on this one. But
Devil might have something interesting to say, but
Devil would agree with me.
Let's find a way to get back to the subject because we've been. This is what's going to take our videos way too long. They're not scripted, which is fine, but like, man, they gotta have some.
Stop with your bullshit.
So DMD quality of life improvements, I think, is overall the enemies on average. I think we can agree that they are designed more so for more characters in this roster than they were in previous entries. In 4 specifically. 3, I wouldn't say because Virgil is very well designed for a lot of those enemies, or at least the enemies aren't poorly designed for him.
I cannot agree with you because the enemies are poorly designed with V in mind. Like V has so many fucking.
No. I was saying like fucking just compared to 4.
Okay, well, compared to 4, the only person who really stood out in terms of like this is not a good design for this was Lady. But that was mainly because Lady cheesed everything out of existence.
Trish doesn't. Trish has a lot of enemies that just don't work well for her. Because her guns. Because the thing is, she doesn't have strong gun projectiles. So like range enemies.
I mean, but that's why you have that built-in fucking stagger lightning mechanic to where you can fucking hold them in place with lightning.
I'm saying she doesn't have strong aerials.
That she does. Yeah, she doesn't have strong aerials.
And that just doesn't, like, all she's got is Rising Sun and like a really good version of Killer Bee with Electro stuff, and that's great. Against minor enemies she does really well, but then against like Mephisto's, Faust, some of the what I would classify as mini boss that enemy.
I can't remember. Yeah, I can't recall for the life of me how things went with the Mephistos when I fucking fought them with Trish. It's like
right.
It's like my brain is just like fucking removed that part of my memory.
Again, she did a ton of damage and she was really fast, so she had qualities that some of the other characters in specific moves and specific situations didn't have access to, like the Sparta round trip, and then like the various kicking. Like you said, stagger on her electrical effects. That's cool, but none of her kits was designed in mind with these characters, or was designed in mind with a lot of these enemies, the stronger enemies especially. Basic enemies, yeah, but basic enemies, generally speaking, can be countered by anyone with a decent kit, even if they're not designed with the enemy in mind. This is why Dante does so well against the Scarecrows and the Mega Scarecrows, because they're just combo food for him. In 4. So yeah, I think
DMC4 is not well designed, man.
I think, yeah, no, 5 characters for enemies that could barely handle the 2. Yeah, no.
All right, so
I think I still would say to this day that like V can much better handle these enemies than like fucking Lady. But
Mike, you mean like Lady could in DMC4?
Yeah, no, Lady couldn't DMC4.
I don't know that one, because Lady fucking over there, Lady just fucking exists and just melts everything. Like, yeah I think the problem is
wind-ups, dagger.
Yeah, the wind-ups were fucking atrocious. Charging your bullets took way too long. Wrong fucking game, but yeah, no.
Dude, it's like she was literally reaching over the counter and buying bullets from somebody as she was fighting.
And then went through the 10-day check process and everything.
will that be $5, miss? Yeah, I think I'll take one to go. And she's like loading them into the gun. It takes forever.
All right, yeah, no.
Um, that's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, no, but I think the higher difficulties just show the failures with V. And again, I actually like playing V the most, and V is my favorite character in the game in terms of gameplay. Mainly because I can just fucking dick off and do literally fucking nothing.
Turn off my brain and just start taunting.
Nightmare, get in here! Okay, so Nightmare's halfway across the planet. Alright, he'll
Yes,
be here eventually.
Son of Sparta is great with V. It's so fun with V because like it's just the perfect. We're not the enemies aren't too fucking
You know
weak,
what?
but
No,
they're
no,
not
fuck
too
this, fuck
fucking
this. I
strong.
need to talk about the one quality of life that's been bugging me since we started this fucking series.
Sure.
Fucking, you needed to have the option to change inputs for fucking moves. You needed to have been able to swap inputs for moves or just, like, map moves differently. This is fucking ridiculous at this point.
Is this a compliment or a criticism?
It's a criticism. There's so many fucking moves, and they finally introduced the D-pad as a viable option, and you can't swap anything out with the D-pad. Like, I'm not saying swap your fucking, like, sword to D-pad, but there are specific, and this is mainly for V, I want that taunt on the fucking D-pad so I can easily use it, damn it!
Yeah, I was gonna say like there are I would say for the most part. Wait, can you actually not do anything with the D-pad? I've never actually customized V's controls.
Okay,
I've only
you
done
can add.
heroes.
Okay, so the controls you can swap to the D-pad because they've added it in this game. But what I'm saying is like for moves, I should be able to I should be able to change the button inputs for moves.
Oh.
Like for
Oh wait, you
example,
actually can put them to the D-pad. Wow, shit, I never noticed.
yeah,
I never noticed that.
no, like so what I'm saying here is like for Dante, let's say for whatever reason I want to fucking put charge, or is it charge, overdrive on the D-pad. Like, I want to put overdrive as a D-pad button input. I should have been able to do that. I should have been able
Wait,
to do any.
specific moves?
Yes, I want specific moves to be able to be reworked on inputs. If you want to say I
I
have to
think that's a
swap.
bit too much.
No, fuck you. Fuck you. This is bullshit. If they can do full auto mode, they can do this.
Full auto mode is. I'm pretty sure full auto mode is determined by RNG.
Well, fuck it. I want my specific inputs. Now, if I have to swap the input with a different move, that's fine. But at least give me the option to try and move shit around to make things complement my, like, easier for me, you know?
I'm going to the restroom. Keep talking.
Yeah, because fucking bullshit over here, especially with V, since V's got so many fucking weird-ass fucking moves. What if I want the giant fucking spike that goes out on hold Y instead of the fucking kaleidoscope fuckery of fucking Porcupine and fucking Shadow? Like, I should be able to fucking do this. I know it's probably never gonna happen, but it should fucking happen. I decree it should fucking happen. It's the biggest fucking flaw the game has in terms of its fucking actual customizational options. In my personal opinion, I'm pretty sure people will agree with me on this one. Ah, fuck that. That just grinds my fucking gears. V should have had more.
Yeah, I hear you. So, as far as my complaint, I'll go through my complaints and then I'll go through the good ones. With V, again, just like
V should have had better fucking upgrades.
this is kind of my complaint in general with DMC5 system, and that's that they introduced just like with 4, they expanded on the back to forward inputs in a lot of the kits. Like back to forward moves like shuffle, or like some of the things with Balrog, like Caliber. I love that, and they gave some of those moves to Dante. They gave moves like that to V. My problem is that they didn't give enough of them. They're like, oh, back to forward ones on like the ground. Okay, it looks at Dante and DSD. No back to forward aerial input. What? What? Like Nero's just sitting over here with a limited move set. Hey, I have back to forward Caliber in the air, back to forward shuffle on the ground. Good. Everybody else, like one input for like one specific thing for like Nightmare, and no one else. Not good. There needs to be more. There needed to be more back to forward inputs. That allows for more moves to be accessible, and they should have been ones that naturally, just again, were fit for a back to forward input. Something like a launch or something, an attack that went straight forward, usually,
We call that stinger, and Dante has that.
or like a charge windup that moves forward. Um, Additionally, uh, I'd say as far as those moves, I would say that I just had a pretty serious issue with the way they handled the lock-on system in this game. Um, why did they take out multiple different types of lock-ons? I don't get this. Like they had the type lock-on, the different lock-on types that you could basically lock on to enemies that were directly in front of you, enemies that were closest to you, or like enemies in the direction that you place this. They had multiple different lock-on systems that made the camera much more accessible. Granted, they have way more camera options and has been more customizable than ever before in the series, but they got rid of the lock-on options. I didn't like that. That fucked with a lot of that system.
So like it fucked with me in ways I never even knew were possible.
Yeah, and I didn't like that. Also, the fact that the default option was like the attention camera. Why is attention camera on as default? I don't. Or not attention camera.
Is that the one where when you kill something?
Camera tracking.
Oh.
Okay, so that's the one where it says the camera automatically swings behind the player. That was not. No,
I don't like
I
it.
just need a camera that's a little bit more manageable, but it doesn't need to swing behind me immediately every time I'm doing something because that completely fucks up my ability to pay attention to an enemy sometimes. Especially with what I'm doing in like, because a lot of like free flowing combos come from a camera that's like on a constant move and watch and control. Because again, you can see mob fights as they're. It's great for mob fights. Combos can be a little different depending on what you're doing. I prefer a little bit of freestyle. So again, camera just needs to be a little bit better. I think there should have been more customizable options so that I can just, oh, okay, I'm going into the campaign, I'll swap it. No, it's just off. It's on or off. There needs to be different versions of this. I love the camera distance thing. That was a great idea. Multiple different versions of camera speed. Yeah, and just your standard like just sets in the options. I love that. I love those were great quality of life improvements. But why did they take out stuff that were good features in the game before? I don't get this.
But why did you take out the good stuff?
Yeah, I just
All right, well,
also it doesn't feel like the music is very loud.
Oh, don't tell Alan that.
Yeah, no. Like I don't like I'm on usually about I think 12 volume for me, which is roughly above average. And I have the music volume set to max. I have like no max volume,
Well,
and it's
doesn't it
like
get louder as like the higher your score is?
yeah, it does. But like I think the basic volume should have been louder to begin with, so that by like B rank it sounds really loud. It should like it. I didn't really like that system.
You
The
know, like
idea that
the
like oh
music is increased by your style rating.
yeah, because then I can't appreciate like the music in the
Well,
game.
Mangler, if you're good, you'll be able to appreciate it like us V players. Triple SS's every
Wow.
single encounter.
Maybe this is why I hear nothing but the what's it called, ultraviolet when I'm playing. That's what I defaulted to him because I was tired of listening to his song, and so I just put an ultraviolet because I figured it fit and it works perfectly.
You did not like V's theme song?
Dude, I love ultraviolet. I love it. And I listen to it and I'm just like, this is perfect because I got the summons, literal physical representations of Nello Angelo's thoughts. It's
Nello
really fitting.
Angelo should have been a summon to some capacity, or he should have been like a pseudo DT for V. They should have added Nello Angelo in some
Hey,
capacity.
we'll talk about that in expectations.
All right, so I guess since we've already I think we've already got through ripping the game in terms of quality of lives that were bad or that we wanted. So let's talk about the good ones.
Well, hang on. There might be a couple other ones.
Oh.
We just talked about this, and
Sorry, hang on. I can bitch about it a bit more.
so what levels were bad? Like I guess, guys, in this section we'll be going over things that we've mentioned already in the previous thing because that's kind of how it like.
What levels were inherently bad? All right, mission fucking 18 or no, mission 19.
Mission 19.
That is that's the one we fight the familiars, right?
No, that's 18.
All right, so there's 18.
Uh,
All right, yeah. Okay, mission 18. Yeah, I was right the first time.
just level, just in terms of the area you have to move.
The area you progress through is just fucking. It looks fine, but it is just boring as shit to go through. There's so many minor enemies that just don't need to be there. I understand wanting to fight each like summon before the final boss fight, but they should have just made it like a straight line through, not like fucking this entire tedious bullshit. And then the game does not warn you in advance that destroying the pillars is going to be viable or helpful in your boss fight. You have to figure it out on your own. That was bullshit. It was a nice idea, but there should have been some indication that this was going to be useful.
My issues with that mission stem from stylish ranking. Like getting an S rank on that mission is almost impossible. The same way that getting an S rank on mission 10 is also almost impossible. And that's that like stylish, like the way that style works in this game is like an average of how well you do in every fight. And like based on like the damage you take, time, so on and so forth, rather than a total average of all the points you collectively get over the course of a mission.
You sound like a guy who gets like one too many B's and it just ruins his score.
You're just like you do, like you get 3 A's in 2 of the enemy encounter in the let's say you get 3 S's, right? 3 of the enemy encounters, and then you get like a D in 2 of them because they're terrible like enemies in a bad area. And then your whole mission is like fucking
A.
Yeah, it's just like B or C, and you're like, what? What?
I will say it is really hard to get anything less than an A in that game. I've gotten less than an A, so I'm not saying I haven't gotten less than an A, but it is.
You can get S ranks pretty feasibly in most levels, but missions, well, some of these missions on DMD are bad for this. Dante's missions on mission 10 specifically, and mission 18 are atrocious because you essentially have to skip like every enemy encounter and get as many red orbs as possible, and then go straight to the boss. You have to kill specific, like super specific enemies. I've had to ask around like several Discords, watch multiple YouTube videos on how to figure out how to S rank that specific mission because the setup is so fucking weird.
So like,
people are like, how do I S rank mission 8? It's like, you got to skip like this specific encounter, this one, you got to go through this one and kill this many enemies and get a build up. It's like, why do I have to do this just to S rank something when I don't have to do these qualities in the other missions? I don't understand this.
Wait, so like, is there actual walkthroughs for how to like S rank a mission on fucking on
YouTube? There are people who are in the process of working on some of them, but there have been like, again, pages and pages of information that I've seen from people in like walls of text in the Discord. Devil especially, you can ask him this, like he has a load of problems.
To be clear, the devil we talk to, right? Not
yes,
devil.
Yes, devil must die. Yeah, no. Every other, it's like every couple weeks or so, I see a question in like the DMs in Devil Never Cries Discord server, and someone's asking how to like S rank like mission 8 or mission 10. It's mainly like mission 10 or mission 18. And Devil gives them like a wall of text of specific instructions of which enemies you have to kill, usually in what specific ways, and how you handle them, and which enemies you have to skip. And I'm like, Jesus Christ! Like, why does he have to tell you all of these things? Why can't you just make it the same way other than these missions? Like, why can't they give you an ample amount of enemies?
You'd think he would have pinned that by now.
Yeah. I don't know. I will say that, what's it called? In addition to this, I'm looking around for other sections like game options. No. Quality of life improvements. I want to say the gallery. Let's talk. I don't think there's really anything negative in regards to the gallery. The information. Hey. Don't even.
My time has come.
At me. The gallery has
so
much fucking information. I don't know what to do with myself. There's so much. There's the character reports. We got the enemy reports. We got the weapon reports. We got the...
Yeah, a shame they're all given to us by this random fucking chick who talks about shit she wasn't there for.
Dude, there was no narrator for any of the other information given.
It was the statue, you simpleton!
Who gives a fuck about the statue?
I care about the statue!
the statue's irrelevant after
The
one.
statue is never irrelevant.
Dude, you still get powers and abilities from the statue anyway. Like, we don't need it as a narrator. We just need it as an item.
I will kill you.
Why do you care so much about the statue?
A statue is important. You will show the statue the respect it deserves.
Just like look at this glowing piece of ingenuity. look at Nico. Just like, you're not glowing. You're not a lion.
You're trash.
What's this? You make me new weapons and give me shitloads of stuff that I can use. And you're an actual person that I can validate the existence of, who's connected to a likable character in this game, in this franchise. Fuck you, statue that doesn't give any dialogue to anybody and only contributes as being an inanimate object that's a weapon vendor. All right.
Love you.
I do like that they gave Morrison sort of a part in the what's it called, in the gallery, that they gave him his own section with his letters.
I mean, unfortunately, the letters are inherently kind of they're basically background information for people who actually know the series. I think is the best way to put it.
They're what?
They're basically just like recap information for people who know the series.
Yeah, though I will say that while I do appreciate, freaking, what's it called? Which one is it? Is it number 1 or is it number? Because I know his mention the freaking. Why is it so slow to scroll through this menu? That one needs to be improved. That's something that's taking. It takes way too long.
It's like, fuck it, that's something that needs to be changed. I've seen it as a problem, it does now need to be changed.
Yeah, is it under profiles or is it under documents?
It'll be under documents if you're looking for Morrison's name.
Well, his is, the letter ones just literally say Morrison's letter. I'm looking for the mention of Beryl.
I thought Beryl was only shown in the magazine cover, confirming that she became a model.
What do you mean, magazine?
Oh, well, I thought Burial's cameo was, so you know when Nero's reading the magazine in mission, I think it's mission 8, actually. You know how he's reading a magazine, and, then they fucking show up, the people who ruin his life, fucking Nico and the other girl. Well, on the magazine cover, I believe it's supposed, I think it says that the girl on the cover is Burial. I think that's where it comes
Beryl?
from. Whatever, fuck.
Those are two different characters.
No!
One of them is a giant flaming demon. The other is just a lady with a
sniper. I don't see the difference, Mangler.
There's not a difference. I'm an English major. Letters don't matter.
I'm sorry, Mangler. Can you learn how to fucking enunciate or pronounce correctly? Take your fucking pick.
Dude, you are an English major. You should be like on this shit.
Dude, the names are too fucking similar. I hate this about the novels. They have fucking things that are too similar to the actual fucking game, and it fucking makes it bullshit to pronounce. And besides, they're both flaming demons in the end, so it doesn't matter.
My goodness. Well, I know Beryl is mentioned here. I literally saw her name.
If she is, I wouldn't know about that. Because I always thought the reference was just that she appears on the magazine cover, so I wouldn't know about that any further.
I mean, if she does, then shit. Well, that's convincing. Either way, I do like that Morrison mentions this information. It's just, mentioning DMC1's novel is a thing I have a problem with. I guess that's, I don't know if that's.
It hurt Mangler in ways he never understood.
I don't know if it's specifically quality of life improvements, because as far as the novels, Before the Nightmare kind of just ties into literally everything that happens in like the prologue cutscenes to the game, so it just expands on that. Same with Deadly Fortune novelists, so they wouldn't really get referenced. And 3's manga only gets referenced with like 2 sentences, and that's that, oh, it's been a year since we last met. It's been nearly a year since we last met. Okay, yeah, that's it. No information.
Oh, that's needed.
Whereas he flat out says, like, what's it called? Wait, I don't think it's in this section. No, it must be somewhere else. Must be under... Is it character reports? No, I remember it's specific. It was specifically stated in the what's it called, in the galleries, that this was from the Devil May Cry 1 novel. Like they stated specifically from the Devil May Cry 1 novel.
Mangler's losing his mind. He's lost it, guys.
Now it just mentions the events. This is fucking weird. Either way,
Mangler, did you take your pills today?
it still canonicizes DMC1's novel, which,
And I know that hurts you, Mangler, but it's okay.
that hurts everyone that cares about DMC, because
No, it's okay.
Dante's guns can't suddenly exist right before 1 if he's had them for a decade. Gilver doesn't make any sense.
No. It's okay. I've
That's
got it all
it.
figured out. I've got it all figured out.
And the fact that their healing factors just don't exist either.
No, they do. It's just Dante just atomizes him.
No, Dante he literally gets his kneecaps blown out by a shotgun shell, and he's like, "Oh my god."
To be fair, Virgil's the one who shot him, or Gilliver, so maybe there's like just anti-healing properties with the shotgun.
No, we don't have any evidence of that. He just shoots. He buys the shotgun from fucking what's her name, Nell Goldstein, and then just brings it and shoots him with the same weapon.
Wait, hang on. Gilliver buys a shotgun from
Yes,
Nell
he buys
Goldstein,
a shotgun, shoots Nell Goldstein with it, sets her shop on fire,
and then
shoots
proceeds
Dante.
to shoot Dante with it.
This is why I'm like, oh, red flags for the
Seems perfectly legit to me. I don't see the problem here. Anyone else see the problem here? I don't see the problem here.
Virgil using firearms? Yeah, this is completely.
Well, I was referring to the fact that Virgil bought a fucking gun just to shoot someone in the face with it.
Gilver is also sentient. Let that step in. So Virgil would have had to come to terms with using firearms and be completely okay with this, even though as V and as Virgil and as Urizen, he's not okay with using firearms.
I think yours is just not okay using anything that's not like him himself.
Well, either way, V and Virgil aren't in DMC5. Virgil wasn't in DMC3, so I don't know why. Where in the fuck, somewhere in between that, he's like, firearms.
Seems pretty legit.
Or that Moon just let him off the leash. That doesn't make any sense. So
maybe Moon was like, "Hey, go fuck up Dante, you bitch."
That would be my criticism of the gallery, is that certain information causes a little bit of an inconsistency. Yeah, they're trying to pull lots of stuff from the rest of the series, but like, did they not realize? Like, I think they understood halfway through doing this. They probably wrote the gallery descriptions, and then halfway through this, after they put the work in, they're like, "Oh, Dante doesn't get his guns in this until presumably before 1, but he already has them in 3."
This could have been easily solved if they just fucking made the guns in 1 just different guns.
Or they just modified him, and they mentioned that, and they just retconned aspects of 1 and just made it so that Nell Goldstein left improvements behind, and he modified them to make them what they were now, and they were weaker in 3. They could have easily just said that. That would have been it. Notice how Gilver doesn't get mentioned. Am I crazy or something?
Mangler, he was real. He haunts your dreams. You're just gonna have to accept it.
Granted, Dante is the only one that's really like witness to him, because he only frequents the club, and all of the mercenaries that exist in Bobby's cellar are killed by Gilver. So
I feel bad for Mangler. You can feel him trying.
It's that one little card that they can use to be like, actually, we don't have to acknowledge Gilver because no one but Dante knows that Gilver exists. He doesn't want to talk about
the desperation of Mangler trying to claw his way out of the situation.
Yeah, desperation, my ass.
It is. It's like an animal trying not to be wounded anymore. It'll hurt you, Mangler.
Okay. So I like the wealth of knowledge that we have here and wealth of information, as well as the fact that we have different descriptions of different versions of the characters, like freaking Nero, one-armed Nero, restored Nero, no deadweight Nero, Devil Trigger Nero, that kind of stuff, and we've got in-depth descriptions of them. Granted, most of them are just Nico just like throwing out her thoughts, but a lot of them are useful information, like the Fury's description. I wish we would have gotten more information on some of the weapon reports. That would have been preferable. That just a thought.
What the hell do the actual weapon reports actually say? I don't remember.
They just talk about the weapon, like in greater detail. You know, they're usually not. It's like they're not anything crazy. I would say besides higher difficulties, secret missions. You want to talk about those? Because I like the secret missions, but what I think is a bad quality of life improvement is how you find them. I think I think they.
I couldn't do all secret missions because of how fucking awful it was to find them.
Mm. Oh well, I was gonna say that some of them are all right. Like eliminate all the demons, don't let any red impulses escape, collect all the red orbs, eliminate demons without taking a hit, get to the goal without touching the ground.
I would love to agree with you. It's just that as I just mentioned, not
Did you
exactly the
fail me?
easiest. Not, dude. A lot of I haven't done all of them because they're so fucking like I know where they are. I've seen them. I know they're real, and I just can't do them because the fucking game's like, go fuck yourself.
Well, I was just gonna say most of them are just collect red orbs, head for a specific location, don't touch the ground, stay in the air. Only one of them is maintain a stylish rank, and then one of them is take.
Did you seriously fucking leave?
Dang it! I just got booted from the call. That was weird. So yeah, the secret missions, from what I remember, are pretty solid. Some of them I think like ones with V, I think I would prefer to be with Nero. But again, like most of them, even with V, are still fine. It's just finding them and moving over that, like having to walk over this specific section and have this highlighted red circle pop up on a display because you move near an object that brightens to it, and then like go into the secret mission and spend like a full like minute fidgeting to get the secret mission. Like, I don't like that. I don't.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. So the missions themselves are good. Getting them to them is stupid.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of leeway here. It has to be precise. I feel like if they would just made it like a little more like fair, I think is the right term here.
Also, purple orbs and blue orbs. How those are acquired? Just mostly the same as the rest of the game. You could buy a set amount of them in the shop.
I have not found all the orbs actually.
You bitch.
I don't need them. I'm fucking good. I don't need a full fucking health bar. Suck my dick.
Okay, so the health orb fragments are fine to me. All of their locations are fine, including the purple ones. My problem is, why do purple orb fragments exist? Why? I don't understand why I have to get 4 of these to increase my DT once. To increase your health is a different story. DT should always be purple orbs exclusively. That was a stupid mechanic that they introduced in Reboot, and I didn't like that. It bogs down significantly. It worked when DTs was just like a flat bar and we could measure everything, like in the Reboot, but not when it's like from rune to rune. Especially when you have abilities that require you to take a set amount from the rune. And like just the difference on display for a player being able to see and measure what resource they're using is not the same as if you have a flat bar that isn't sectioned off by any point except for the very beginning, which is how the Reboot's DT works. So yeah, that's my issue with that. The system overall is solid. The locations of the purple orb fragments are solid. It's just having purple orb fragments was my problem. What about you, Sam? Anything?
Regarding the purple orbs?
Purple orbs, blue orbs, or meshing them together. They both don't deserve their own section because they're essentially the same thing, but for different resources.
I don't mind them. I think they were fine the way they were. It's just that for me personally, I just don't like the fact that well, you can't buy all of them, and finding them, they were not as easy to find this time around as they were in the old other games.
Well, I didn't really have a problem with too many of them. It's just like some of the level design I think made certain ones harder to find than others. but a lot of them were pretty. Like by the time I got through like Senna Sparta and DMD before I started looking through things, I was around the same level of health orbs and purple orbs as the previous games, where I get to about 16, 17 boxes, and that's about it. That's usually where everybody gets, without looking specifically for anything. So like you can get like 14 to 15, maybe 16 at max. If I can get to that without looking for anything specifically, I think that's fine. Yeah, anything else is extra. All right, sure. It's not bad. I wouldn't say it's a general improvement, but it didn't really get worse, in my opinion. Next, we're gonna talk about, before we go into gold orbs, we'll talk about red orbs. So red orbs, and I guess just currency in general. So this game has a lot of moves that you obviously have to buy.
Yes.
One of the best quality of life improvements of this game, Zim, you may not disagree with this because you think Proud Souls is a good system. Eliminating an alternate resource for purchasing all items when red orbs work just fine in DMC 1 and DMC 3. I love this. I've talked to people in the community who've had their opinions on it. Some people have preferred Proud Souls. The overwhelming majority of people, the vast majority, prefer being able to purchase everything with red orbs. My initial problem with this system is that we didn't have enough red orbs to purchase everything. And I was under the impression that due to the Proud Souls system, we would be able to transfer over our red orbs from character to character. This is not the case. However, if you have played this game at any point after April of 2019, Bloody Palace exists. And Bloody Palace gives you a fuck ton of orbs. Oh my god, you get so many orbs from red. Like I never thought I was going to be able to make it to those 3 million red orb taunts.
Yeah.
But my god, Bloody Palace gives you a shitload of orbs.
So you just did it by just playing Bloody Palace all the way through?
I played it like once, and I got like, I think maybe almost 4 mil. Like an insane amount of money. I was like, shit. Well, that was when I got through it. When I got through, like, I think 30 levels of it, I got several 100,000 red orbs. So it was like 600 something. It's a crazy amount. Not just that, S ranks in this game give you a ton. I do like the amount of red orbs you are given, and that some abilities are more expensive than others. Sure, as they should be. I love that they found a way. They actually found a way for red orbs to still be useful. Via, you can say what you want about the breakers being like breakable and having to repurchase them, but it gives reason for you to keep buying them as Nero. It give a reason to spend your red orbs. As Dante, red orbs are never not useful because Dr. Fouls exists. You always have ammunition. You always need ammunition. So yeah, not to mention the amount of like money it takes to fully upgrade all of that stuff is going to take easily 2 playthroughs. It does progression in that regard seems a little tedious, but if you have Bloody Palace and you beat the game once, like just go play Bloody Palace, you just get so much fucking money. Oh my god. Play it with Super V. or play it with Basic V, or like,
play with the correct V, Super V.
Yeah, so I guess I'm trying to think of the negatives of like the red orb system, because there was one that I remember.
I think I could say the inflation, so to speak, gets way too fucking massive.
What do you mean inflation?
So when you buy something over and over again, it'll cost more money. That's fine on paper, and that's fine. But the hike in this game is a little pretty fucking steep.
What specifically? Because when you buy moves, you gain them. You don't keep paying money for them.
Yeah, but every single move goes up as a result.
Oh, you mean like overall? Yeah, that gets a little steep. And granted, it's just like Bloody Palace exists, S ranks for missions exist. It's just, I think it can depend, because again, I also pre-ordered this game, so I got 100,000 red orbs at the start, so my experience is going to be a little different.
Trash.
Well, it's also the fact that, actually, I don't think they gave you red orbs with it. What I got was that I got the demo, and you got red orbs from playing the demo. But pretty much the several million people who played this game at launch got those 100,000 or so red orbs, because they probably played the demo. Red orbs overall are like they're just pretty solid. I just like not having to use an alternative resource. That's preferable. I like being able to pay for everything with an option.
And you really just did not like the fucking the pretzels, huh?
Yeah. Okay, so quality of life improvements, negatives and positives. We're gonna go over the small positives of this: the revive system and gold orbs. What are the small positives that we can think of? Because most of this section is going to be negatives.
For
Let's
gold
see.
orbs, well, personally,
Yes.
I thought they didn't give you enough gold orbs. I think you needed a few more gold orbs.
Do you have anything to contribute that's like valuable, or you just kind of like fuck around?
Mangler, I hate to be able to break the sea, but not everyone fucking hates gold orbs being so fucking open. You know, not everyone fucking hates that. Just gonna be real here for a minute.
Look, I like the idea that you can get gold orbs and use them, but like again, if they wanted to make this accessible, like do okay, so I can't really think of anything positive because the mechanics of the gold orb is exactly the same. Like you just it's not like in DMC3s, like you revive on the spot. Well, technically DMC3s does do that, but you can use more than this.
You can use significantly more in this one.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
there.
Utility.
I think what you can argue for is there should have been a cap. That's fair, but that's about it.
Oh yeah. So I would say one improvement is that you get all your DT back, but that's the only improvement because there's going to be a negative when it comes to that. The negatives in regards to this.
None.
I'll
It's a
go over
perfect
the
system.
revive system. Yeah. So it is an extremely flawed system. It is very, very flawed. If TTR Review could formulate an opinion as to what the gold orbs affected difficulty in the correct manner, I probably would have been willing to grant him that gold orbs hurt a lot of progression, a lot of legitimate progression and difficulty hurdles in this game. Like I said, on second playthroughs and third playthroughs, gold orbs, like, oh, you just gold orb everything. And I really didn't think that would be a problem. But then after you play the game, log in, like, even if you're just a person who goes into practice to get better, by the time you're done practicing after a couple days, you've got like fucking like 20, 30 gold orbs and you didn't do anything to deserve them. You just, they were given to you because you logged in online.
Perfect.
And again, not on the first playthrough, but like, again, it's just so many gold orbs. Why the fuck do we have this many? Now, I don't think reasonably a person who is playing this game or is played, most of the fan base, for that matter, has played the previous games and plays them the same way that they did in the previous ones, which is upgrading their basic abilities and things like their health and their DT. They're not pumping free orbs that they have into gold orbs because it's not as useful when you're starting out. However, given the way that the red orb system works and you have an ample supply of them, it's entirely possible that someone might feel the need to dump them in there. And now when the gold orb revives you on the spot, gives you full health, the same as it did, only now it gives you a full DT bar. That's a little strong when you got characters like V who are just like awaken and summon nightmare at full power with no restrictions. Just go into promotion.
I must not be good at game design because I'm not seeing the problem here.
Oh wait, what's that? Dante has gotten we've canonicized Majin, right? We now have a Majin DT mechanic that
Which
you can pump your DT into. You can pump your DT into, and Sin DT doesn't need to be increased in its bar. All that needs to be increased is your normal DT. But what's this? Gold Orb gave you back all your health and all your DT. Seems like fuel for the blood god. Yep. Yeah, that's obviously a problem. The fact that like I can just gold orb through DMD, I don't even have to really fight. I could just
No. Let's be clear here. You can't just fucking keep reviving yourself and expect to fucking win. Let's be clear here.
You can.
No.
You can gold orb. You can gold orb through DMD if you have enough gold orbs.
No, you can't. Stop. Mangler,
yes, you can.
Mangler over here.
Dude, do you know how many fucking gold orbs I have?
How many?
Hang on, let me check.
Son of a bitch.
130. 130 gold orbs.
Not enough. I agree.
You really... There's 20 missions.
Yes.
There are 20 missions.
Yes.
Well, okay. Technically, if we're being real, Missions that aren't boss fights are the ones that I'm counting. Because prologue, you don't really have to fight at all. I would say mission 20 is super easy because of Virgil getting destroyed if you're playing Nero. And besides that, I'd say maybe there's like 18 missions. Or if we also skip Gilgamesh, then there'd be 17. So roughly 18 to 17 missions where I have to try. Those are just the ones on the top of my head. And I've got 130 gold orbs, so that's almost 10 gold orbs for every attempt. So yeah, I can entirely gold orb through it. And if I obviously put DMD down for one day and pick up the next, and I went through several missions with multiple players, I'll end up getting a couple gold orbs
Seems perfectly
as a
fair.
result. So I'll just get a recharge. That's a problem. I appreciate that Capcom has a way that they want people to learn how to get through difficulties, but like again, if you've already beaten the game, you unlock Void Mode, you unlock Bloody Palace, you get access to these things that help you get much better at the game if you care enough to play it. Assuming you're playing it in the first place, why are you not even using anything after you play the game? And even then, why not just play on human mode? Learn to get better. There's no shame in doing that. Not at all. There's no shame in learning to get better. I don't know why they felt the need to just give you everything with the gold orbs. It was stupid.
Mangler, sounding like a real bigot from where I'm standing.
A bigot? What the fuck are you on about?
You're shaming people who use gold orbs, Mangler. I can't say I abide this.
Yeah, no, I won't shame people who will play on human mode.
But you
Because
will
they're
shame
honest with
people
themselves
who
that
use
they don't
gold
feel like
orbs.
they're ready for Devil Hunter, or they don't want to deal with the difficulty of Devil Hunter. The people with gold orbs, nah.
It sounds like
you're basically cheating. You're basically cheating to me. Go
I,
fuck yourself.
I feel very judged right now.
Dude, like DMD is meant as like a reasonable challenge. It's always been that way.
Like I am being judged. I do not
Even in DMC3, you had shitloads of damage that you could use to bust through enemies. You were someone who played through DMD, and you played Virgil. So this is even more the case because he doesn't lose DT explosion. Even on this DMD, most mob fights you just trash with tons of breakage effects and AoE effects. Sin DT nukes everything. At least you don't have to sacrifice breakers for him. You're just like loose black hole. The entire area is gone. V's missions: summon Nightmare, ride on Nightmare, wait on Nightmare. Yeah, no, your summons will get killed, but like summon Nightmare, summons don't die now. Like I said, DMD is not fun with Son of Sparta. That doesn't mean, or I said DMD is not fun with V. That doesn't mean V can't beat it feasibly. It just means like you're not going to be able to have as much time to taunt and enjoy like specific combos. You'll just be having too much time flattening people with fat damage. So that's my problem with the Gold Orb system. It makes higher difficulty seem very ludicrous after the first playthrough, and it's very very easy for insanely stupidly small amounts of effort. Luckily, Hell in Hell mode doesn't get affected by this because you get 3 gold orbs and then you're done. I'm trying to think if there's anything else because like. The revive system. So the revive system in this game works a little different than the previous ones. You have the multiple red orb system, or you can use the gold orb system. I actually like the revive system in that you can pay different amounts of red orbs for different amounts of DT and health, and based on which one you pay, you can actually prevent your style score in the mission from getting tanked significantly. Also, if you want to learn to get like better at like recovering and getting back into the game, you could pay for the lower ones and not pay as much money and just work with that little amount of health. You can also pay for the bigger ones if you're not ready to pay a gold orb.
Or pay the fucking red orbs because you'll get them back a lot faster and it won't fucking destroy you.
It's also the fact that the red orb costs increase every single time, which
bullshit.
Good, because you actually get a usage out of your red orbs, and you don't get to pay for the same amount of health every single time on the same difficulty. for the same cost. Like, it does increase. I think the red orb revive system is considerably balanced, much better, especially in regards to the style system than the gold orb system. It just goes hand in hand. Like what they could have done to improve the gold. Well, I'll talk about what they could have done later. We'll leave that to like changes. Changes will be the biggest discussion part. We'll talk about that. Might have its own separate video. But I'm trying to get through the rest of it. So,
right now we're at 134.
Yeah, so I've gone through everything on the front on the mission select screen, like the difficulty levels, blue orb, purple orb, gold orbs, red orbs, the revive system, the galleries, secret missions, higher difficulties, mostly the options, control. All we really have, I guess, is the style system, Bloody Palace, and Void. And then like specific moves from character kits. We already talked about bosses in the last section, so I'm not going to talk about overall quality of life improvements there because we definitely did a ton of comparisons from the previous games. So Bloody Palace, Zim, you want to take that because you've had a lot of thoughts on that, obviously.
Oh, Bloody Palace. Okay, so
bad things out of the way first. Let's get those out of the way.
Bad things out of the way first. Okay, so I know DM Studio was the only one that did this, but given the enemy variety and how the game is structured for Bloody Palace and DMC5, there really should have been more recovery zones for characters like V, more specifically, because he needs way more attention and help. Because V is not balanced for Bloody Palace at all. I don't know who Bloody Palace is balanced for, but it's sure as hell not V. The arena's too small. Now I do like that you don't have that if you're not looking at your opponent, they can't hit you. But that's like the only good thing they added to help out characters like V, which is fucking retarded.
I mean, they can't hit you in the base game either if you look away.
Yeah, I know, but like the point I'm trying to make here is like that's the only good thing.
More of an impact in the smaller arena.
And that they don't have it specialized for specific characters. The fact that V has to fight 3 fucking Furies the exact same way everyone else does is fucking ridiculous.
God. I completely forgot about floor 70. Yeah.
That was fucking ridiculous. And there are literal videos online walkthroughs like, hey, this is how you beat this mission. Can I beat this mission without being fucking treated like a fucking joke, please?
Yeah, so I was gonna mention that there are a lot of good floors in Bloody Palace, but with the good floors, obviously comes a ton of bad floors. And given that V isn't designed for a lot of, like, he isn't designed for pretty much any of the mini bosses in this game, except for, well, actually, yeah, no, none of them. I would say he was designed for the Behemoth more so than the other ones, if only because he has an animation where he can ride them around, but he doesn't even get, like, proper control of that, so I don't think that even counts. Because all he has is, like, finisher animations. So naturally, a great way to handle this, if they didn't want to give him unique animations, was add stagger, add fear mechanics, add other things that make the enemies react to you in a conducive way that you can capitalize on, or that you can get punished by. Usually both. And add a balanced measure of these with like different damage health pools. Instead, they just threw the exact same enemies into Bloody Palace with no change. And they're like, yeah, this is going to be fine. Like, it would be completely fine. Just summon the Fury and like 3 other riots and have you fight them in a small area with no stuff. Yeah, this will be fine. Let's see what else.
Why would anyone think this would cause a problem? Why would anyone even think that?
Yeah, no. Why would anyone even think that? I do have. Oh my god, I forgot. Floor 50. 3 Impuza Queens.
Oh fuck
what
me!
What the fuck?
Too many fucking 3s already.
I said Impuza Queen was one of my favorite enemies as a mini boss. I don't take that back. I still think it's a good enemy, and its potential for being a great mini boss is still there. That being said, I also said in the previous section that the problem with having a mini boss with other enemies that have a completely different utility in a bad area is that all of those elements don't mesh very well. Or at least if I didn't say that, that was what I meant to say. I'm sorry. Having fire bats that zone you to death from an area, or taking forever to zone you with their telegraph, so you have to make like split-second decisions. Oh, should I go approach this right now? Or should I deal with the massive tank that's chasing me around the area, like and I run away like a chicken with my head cut off? while they're both on like DMD. Now, imagine that we've increased the enemy aggression to around Sparta mode because we're now on like mission 50 or stage 50, and their health is also seeming to increase somewhat. And we took this one enemy, put him in an area that's half the size of that. So this would be fine if it were one Impusa and the hitbox were adjusted. I think that would actually be a pretty decent mini boss fight, even for V. Nope. We're going to spawn them in there, and we're not going to fix the one hitboxes that caused the problem. And then we're going to spawn in 2 more. It's like, what the fuck? They don't even spawn them in sequentially. They spawn all at the same time.
Yep,
you fight them all at the same time. Why?
Perfectly reasonable to me, Mangler. I don't know what the problem
is. I don't understand.
Again, that game, like, half our complaints could just be summed up like V exists.
V no. That's not a problem for just V. That's a problem for literally everyone. Like I love the fact that Dante has a ton of options to deal damage. Same with Nero. Great. Better than they've ever had before. Absolutely awesome. Problem is, that's not a justification for dropping an enemy with a fuck ton of health into the game if he's a mini boss on higher difficulties. And then put that in with another, like literally triple the amount of health that you have to deal with. Like I just opened up my game, went in there, DT exceeded, and barely did like maybe like 20% of the health off of a single Impusa Queen. And now I'm fighting them, and every 5 seconds they're jumping. Every 5 seconds one of them is jumping and attacking. That is not manageable for even Nero, who has so much air control. So you can bet it's not managed for V at all. Because all V has is Summon Nightmare, and then just hope they target him. Definitely not managed for Dante if it's not managed for Nero. So yeah, that floor is insufferable. I guess if we're talking about Bloody Palace, we also need to mention like the bosses and their interaction with specific characters, especially ones that weren't originally supposed to fight them. So like Artemis for Dante, or like Cavalier for Nero,
or like any for V.
Yeah, any for V. I'm trying to see any like other missions that are pretty atrocious. Is that a Proto-Angelo? Oh, yeah. Mission, like, stage 79 with 2 Hell Judicas and a Proto-Angelo. Why? Why does this stage exist? Also, why do we have... why do certain bosses not show up in this thing? I understand why the Qliphoth Roots and Gilgamesh don't show up here. Completely fine. And they did add some solid bosses, Goliath, Artemis, Cavalier, Malphas. Sure. All decent boss fights. Virgil at the end, and then Urizen's boss fights, which some of them not my favorites, but the other ones manageable. We're missing some bosses, very clearly.
Yeah, we're missing quite a few bosses.
Like, we're missing Gilgamesh, we're missing freaking, what's it called? The Qliphoth Roots. We're also missing, I believe...
the Garion?
Yeah, Garion. So, I don't specifically care about Gilgamesh or Nihog. Fuck those bosses. But Qliphoth Roots isn't too bad. I mean, if you're going to put... I feel like if you're going to put Cerberus in there, the Qliphoth Roots can probably make it, because the worst portions of Cerberus are definitely worse than, like, on average, how good the Qliphoth Roots are. Because at least the Qliphoth Roots has some silly hitboxes, and that it just doesn't fight back. That's the problem with it. But again, that's still better than the Behemoths and the worst portions of like Cerberus's things combined. So yeah, I still say that's a feasible enough reason to include it. If you're not going to include that, okay, why the fuck is the Garion Knight not included? That would be a fantastic boss fight if you had Nero and Dante in there. But no. So basically, none of these bosses make it in here. They only put Dante's and Nero's. Like, they only put, like, one of Dante's... Okay, they put 2 of Dante's bosses. This was mainly catered towards Nero. And I will say, like, man, that's not as fun as like I thought it would have been. um,
Bloody Palace, you let me down.
yeah, so I do like that there are some interesting sections in the last portion. I don't like that there is a mini boss rush right before, like in mission 96 up to 98 is basically all the enemies of the, or no, what's it called? Mission 90, I think 95? Yeah, no. 95 up to 97 is all the enemies of the game. So you fight, I think, I want to say like four or so basic enemies, six basic enemies, like one of each of the six basic enemies, and then one
Yeah.
of each of the six basic enemies in there. There are some that I would characterize as mini bosses, like the fucking what's it called, the Nobody or the Death Sisters, but they're not included. The ones that are included in the mini boss are the Fury, the Proto Angelo, the Behemoths, the School or the not School Angelo, Hell Judica, the Impuza Queen, and the Lucicina. Those are the ones that are included in the rush. The top six strongest enemies in out of the lesser category. So I think we can fairly call those mini bosses.
Yeah,
Why the fuck do I have to fight two of these guys at one time when they're getting the DT mechanics and they have like roughly Son of Sparta health or higher? Like,
because
why?
Mangler has to be a test of skill.
V is not designed for these. Again, I said the Impuza Queen is all right, but like again, add any super problematic enemy and she starts to become a pain in the ass. So add the Lucicina,
And
an
conversely,
enemy,
just V in general.
an enemy that is the worst zoning enemy in the game to fight because of the strong shield and the curse-based projectiles that he shoots at you. And then you got the Impuza Queen running around. How much of a problem that is? Or the Hell Judica, or the Behemoth, or the Proto Angelo, or the Fury. Any combination of that, especially fighting the Proto Angelo when you're fighting the Fury, because the Proto Angelo lasts way fucking longer. It's like, Jesus Christ, this is harder to fight than like the Malphus boss fights. Like if I was fighting Malphus and Goliath at the same time, they would be easier to fight than this mini boss rush. That's not okay. That should not be acceptable.
That is
That's
not
with Nero.
okay.
That's with Nero. He has mechanics and things that are specifically designed to take these enemies out. He has dedicated animations for these characters, tons of airtime to be completely safe, and can turn the camera away from them to completely ignore attacks. And that's still not enough. That's still not enough.
What even is this?
I suffer. The mini boss, the boss rush at the end of the Bloody Palace is not phenomenal. V suffers immensely. I gotta be honest. Like playing through this with V, I don't think I think I died in the last mission, and it's so terrible. I've seen so many people die on Fruit Urizen because basically what you have to do is you have to do a mini boss rush and kill the worst enemies in the game, like because they become the worst enemies in the game when they're right next to each other. Then you do that. Then you fight Cheer Urizen. All right. Then you take care of him, and I think you get a little bit of health after Standing Urizen. But then you have to fight Standing Urizen. You're like, oh my god, this is insufferable. Then you have to fight Fruit Urizen with V. And avoid attacks that are clearly designed for Dante. But you have like no air jumps or anything. And you just get trashed. And if you just survive, you somehow manage to beat him. You get to fight a fresh Virgil. Delicious. So if he sucks you into Judgment Cut in, you're just like, bye-bye, sayonara.
So this is what pain feels like?
I don't need to explain why that's fucked up. Like, So besides that, I would say besides that, the size of the area, specific enemy spawns. Oh, on mission 93. Why do I have to fight 5 Death Scissors? Why? Like, I understand 1, maybe 2 sequentially. 5 at the same time. Really? Like, do you just not want me to be on the ground? Like, I get it, but just put up a sign there. It'd be easier than telling me the. So I essentially have to stay in the air and not use any of my tools on the ground. I mean,
Yes.
that was kind of the case for Death Scissors before, but it was never to the point where I could use literally nothing because I at least could focus on one enemy. Now I have to fight 5 at the same time.
Perfectly balanced, Mangler. So things should be.
Delicious. So those are the notable enemy encounters that I can think of. Oh, there's also mission floor 67, which I think is an honorable mention, and Impuza Queen with 3 riots. That that's problematic for certain characters. Or stage 64 with 2 Hell on Tauras and a Fury. That's pretty fucking rough. Or stage 57 with 2 Proto Angelos. Like 2 Proto Angelos. I want to repeat that again. Or the stage 53 with 2 Death Scissors and 1 Lucichi. I think you guys get the point here. It is quite rough to get through some of these. Or wait, stage 47 with the Impusa Queen and 3 Hell on Tauras.
It's just
My
not,
God,
it's just it just gets worse and worse the more
they
you think
just
about it.
spam the mini bosses in Bloody Palace, and also the ones after, like, Artemis, like stage 40 above. At that point, they're basically defaulted this on a Sparta difficulty. So yeah, that includes health and damage, by the way, guys. So remember that. This Bloody Palace isn't designed the same way that 4s or 5s is.
Or any of the
They
better
do
ones.
actually increase. Yeah, no, they increase in damage and health. I do think, yes, you could have put more threatening enemy spawns and more aggression and the DT mechanics, sure, but their core stats shouldn't have been increasing. And certain changes should have been made to balance Bloody Palace specifically rather than just shoehorning it into this. So those are my negatives for Bloody Palace. Sim, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, the fact that we're still talking about balancing on an update, because Blade Palace did not come out with the game. One of
Yeah,
the
no, it was updated.
Yeah, so the fact that we can still talk this much like fucking thing about it, clearly balancing issues were a problem is clearly a problem.
Yeah, no, we would, if they patched this, we would have talked about like pre-patch. We would, if they fixed most of these issues, we would be just like, stroking Capcom right now. Like we wouldn't be we would be talking about the most recent version, obviously, and giving them
Yeah.
praise for that.
Unfortunately, the most recent version was the only version we got.
Yeah.
I could have
So
forgiven most of it. I could have forgiven almost all of it if, and only if, it didn't come out a month later. The fact that it came out later just for me was just like, what?
now I will say, getting into the positives. If you got anything else to say for the negatives, let's wrap it up.
No, I think it's fine for the most part. I think everything else either comes from some other problem.
Yeah, so most of the issues that I have with Bloody Palace just have to do with specific enemy spawns with certain characters, and that a lot of them are on really specific floors. However, a ton of these problems are alleviated when you realize that Dante and Nero, they exist as characters in the game that are mostly going to be played, and the fact that for the first time in DMC history, we can see what enemies are on what stages. Oh my fucking God, why did it take them so long to add this? Like, why? Also, it's a scripted Bloody Palace, just like 4s. Great. It's not super random like 2s or 3s. Gotta love that. Don't really like RNG. I like that bit of order. Makes it a lot easier. It also means that you can use the Bloody Palace as, just like you could before in 4, as a pseudo training area. In case you're just like, hey, I don't want to go to the Void to fight like one enemy at the time. Great, you can hop into Mission 8 and train on 3 riots at the same, or Stage 8 and train on 3 riots at the same time. You also get to see your stage times specifically and how much time you take play on the stage, what your best times are. You can beat those. All that information is cataloged, so you can challenge yourself. You can do self-imposed challenges. Like, the replay value in Bloody Palace is crazy.
if you really get into it. It's insane what you can do with this thing. So
And then
again,
the
as
fact that
bad,
you can change, the fact that you can choose whichever stage you want to play on and practice on it is also really
and you
nice
can
touch.
practice them. It's not just that you can see like, oh, this mission's here, this thing's here, but you can't practice it. You can warm up on it, and if you play it on Nero, you get to choose what breakers you want, which is really really nice, and you can check in what order. You also don't have to take as many breakers as you want, so you can simulate it as if you were moving through it in real time from a previous stage. Awesome, great. Uh, Additionally, the fact that Dante can fight all of Nero's enemies and all of Nero's bosses, solid. There is nothing more satisfying than going in the Bloody Palace and just bullying Goliath with Dante. There, nothing truly. I do think Goliath is an easy boss, but Zim and I have already said that like he gets bullied by Nero anyway. So getting bullied by Dante with Sim DT is not really like a flaw. That system because he wasn't designed well to take. He wasn't designed to take Nero's full arsenal anyway. He clearly wasn't because Gerbera was already like demo Nero has told us like the exclusive, just the Xbox exclusive demo, not even like the multi-platform demo that gives you Punchline, which you normally get from Goliath afterwards, showed us that Goliath gets trashed by like Nero at that point of the game. Let alone Nero with 100,000 red orbs from playing the demo at launch. Let alone new game Nero. Let alone new game Dante. So, yeah. I would say the same thing for Artemis and Malphus as well. Though I don't think I've really ever wanted to go and play Malphus and practice against him, but Dante. But some point I probably will.
So I think I wanted to.
Yeah, Cavalier with Nero is fucking amazing. That proves to me that like Cavalier was so good as a boss fight. Not only is it like, again, interesting as far as like parry windows and like laser trappings with like Nightmare and stuff, with like the forward lasers and like promotion. Not only is that somewhat interesting with V, the guy that has nothing going for him in terms of gameplay. Nero just comes in and is just like, hey, look at what I can do with this masterpiece of a boss fight. Parries, aerials, I can chase you around the map just the same way that Dante can, but with completely different moves. It's great. It's absolutely phenomenal. I loved fighting Cavalier with it was just perfect. Fighting Cerberus. Well, Cerberus again. I still think Ice Cerberus is terrible. Yeah, I don't know why I said yellow Cerberus. Lightning Cerberus is meh. Fire Cerberus is all right. I'm completely fine with Fire Cerberus. But man, when you play this fight as Nero, so much more fucking manageable. Jesus Christ. Everything Ice Cerberus is unmanageable no matter what you play as. But man, just being able to alleviate like another third of the boss fight, heaven. Just heaven. Also being able to play this fight as V, while it is somewhat insufferable, being able to blast Cerberus with fucking Nightmare is like satisfying to a degree that you can't even like describe in words.
It's almost orgasmic.
Sitting there just yes. It's sitting there just like, hey, feel my thunder, and you just like send him to the underworld.
Who's this loser?
I was gonna say one thing for my negatives. I don't like the fact that Cerberus is thrown in at stage 90. When all the bosses are throwing it at every 20 stages. That was kind of weird to me.
Yeah, but very clearly the final stage is meant to set up something else going on there.
Yeah. So having the Urizen boss rush, well, I don't like the concept of the Urizen boss rush. We do get health after, I believe, the second Urizen boss fight. Nero, Dante, they can both fight those enemies. V does all right against sitting Urizen. Standing Urizen, again, not a phenomenal boss fight, but like, again, still somewhat manageable if you have Nero and Dante.
Yeah, I fucking hate the. No, actually, I'd say standing Urizen, like without the fruit, is more manageable with V actually on this one because V can stay away and the tentacles don't completely fucking destroy you like they do with the others.
Well, in terms of like the most manageable ones, that's well, sitting Urizen is definitely the most manageable one because he doesn't really fight back. I would say Fruit Urizen is the second most manageable because even though V has problems with that boss fight, it's only in the last section, and the fact that like you have to find specific setups with Nightmare to like hit him with the laser. But you can still find ways to teleport around, and you can like if Urizen doesn't want to hit you before the third phase, he can't because you can just shadow dodge literally everywhere. It's just the problem is that once he gets to the third phase, and he starts pulling out like his persona moves and starts blowing up the entire arena with his spikes, V doesn't have the air control or the jumps to get above those or dodge his uppercut. So yeah. Whereas in V does way better against standing Urizen. It's just standing Urizen is a more difficult boss fight.
Yeah,
so
standing Urizen was just fucking stupid all across the board.
I will say that Fruit Urizen, phenomenal with Nero. I fucking love fighting Fruit Urizen with Nero. The same, I feel the same way about it that I do about Cavalier. Like it's a good, solid boss fight that honestly, like could have made it as the final boss fight of the game. And Nero just comes in and just like, let me just make this better. Bringer, caliber, jumps, charge
totally
shots.
not biased. As you can see, we have our most non-biased reporter on the scene.
My devil trigger has been pulled. Like, yeah.
Nice.
And then Virgil. So Virgil doesn't change for Dante because this is just Son of Sparta mode Virgil because BP Virgil is defaulted to Son of Sparta. So Dante is just fighting him as if he's a Son of Sparta. V's a little weird with him because there was like two versions of him that were there were two versions of V that were like able to fight against Virgil. There was a modded one that wasn't in BP where he wouldn't actually target. He would target V exclusive, but that one was atrocious. But this one actually targets the summons, so it can be, I guess, all right. Nightmare and Judgment Cut In doesn't work. Nightmare is a little too slow to hit Virgil with anything outside of the forward laser. Shadow is basically the only way that you survive that fight.
Only way you're gonna make it out there. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of like Cavalier. Only Virgil's not a big enough hurt box to be hit by Griffin's lasers because he's just teleporting everywhere. He literally just took V's Kane move and he's like, wait. To this and no lag at the end of the animation and like attack startups after it and you're just like, oh, I'm not motivated. So Nero is probably the most interesting here because now Nero has to fight the same boss that he fought before, only Virgil has way more armor and he doesn't stagger at it. Like his Sin DT now has complete armor and pretty much never gets staggered outside of the strongest moves. Because what makes Sin DT so much more manageable in Mission 20 is that he can like Virgil's DT actually takes stagger after his hits, and Nero can punish him. Whereas in Mission 19, you can't do that with Dante unless you had him out of like the flight simulator or specific moves or setup. And usually he's just in complete super armor. Now the same goes for Nero. I will say Nero definitely suffers a little bit from this, more so than usual. It's still a good boss fight. It's just like you have to completely change your approach now because you can't take anywhere near as many combos as before. You still have an opportunity to stagger him, and all your moves work exactly the same. It's just, Doppelganger still gets shit on because you just grab it and throw it to the ground. Judgment Cut still has a skybox. You just have to wait for Virgil to stop being in DT. There's a lot more waiting, and the fight is a little bit more tedious, I suppose. Other than that, I think handling most of the boss fights, save for V's, most Dante and Nero's boss fights being overlapped in BP were done pretty well. Even the worst boss fights like Cerberus were done way better for Nero than they were for Dante. So yeah, I don't really have too much to say about Bloody Battles. Like I customizable rankings, the amount of blood that you red orbs that you get from this, practicing the runs. I think in theory, this is I would say
You're starting to lag. You're starting to lag, Mangler.
How about now?
All right, you came back.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on.
How about now?
Okay, so it sounded good for a second, then it went straight back to shit. So we'll see if it goes straight back to shit.
How about now?
Okay, that's better. Hopefully it stays like that.
Yeah, so this is the Bloody Palace that I would prefer to play above all others, because the alternatives are 2, 3, and 4. 2, nobody cares about 2s. 3 and 4, well, 3 I can't practice any of those stages individually. Same thing with 4. Like you again, the enemies I think in 4's Bloody Palace were probably some of the best. But the problem is I have to sit down and commit to sitting through that entire thing in one session. I can do that in 5, but I can also just practice individual stages and play against enemies. So it's really hard to justify going back to an earlier Bloody Palace when I have this one. I just think like this one needs to be improved. And it can be improved anytime they want to update it. Anytime Capcom's like, hey, we'll just some mechanics, give it some quality of life improvements. There you go. Just add some health or fix health, hitboxes, damage. They can do that anytime they want.
And here's Mangler being all crazy.
This is definitely the best Bloody Palace we have. It's just like it could be improved significantly. But the improvements aren't that difficult to make. Yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to fix the boss fights for V. I don't think that's really going to happen because a lot of that just has to do inherently with the way that V is designed and his kit.
Or more specifically, how everyone else is designed in reference to
V. And how his kit just doesn't work for them. Or if it does, it works in a non-balanced fashion. Either too little damage or way too much damage. But as far as the basic enemies, they could totally fix that. And that's like 90% of the Bloody Palace experience. So, yeah. Then the last thing we have is the Void. So
I never really used Void because I'm not used to actual fucking to practicing. I just like practice in the game. So I never really used the Void all that much.
I have put probably 100-something hours into the Void. So I feel uniquely qualified to talk about it. What are you? Shut up. So I'll speak on the negatives first. So because those are much, much, much less than that of the positive. The positives are so high in Void, it's not even comparable.
Like, why are you even trying to speak to me about negatives?
What? Why do we even? We don't even need to talk about it yet. So the problems I think in Void stem from the fact that, well, again, you have to like get this after you beat the game. I can't like access my magazine.
You're starting to lag.
Like, were you kidding me?
I am not kidding. The second you started talking, started lagging. Well, how long have we been doing this video for? Oh, okay. We just hit the 2-hour mark. Okay. Okay, so he'll be back right now. All right, speak.
I have returned.
Okay. So we are at the 2-hour mark. So at the very least, it did take a while. So that's at least something good.
Yeah. We're about to get through Void. We're about to do this. So my problems with Void stem from the fact that, one, I can customize my breaker magazine, but I can't add breakers to just normal magazine because there's magazine 1 and there's magazine 3. Magazine is just the breakers that you currently have access to. Mm-hmm. And usually the way that magazine works is that, you equip magazine 1, let's say you got like 4 overtures and like a punchline, right? Yeah. And you use 2 of those overtures after like, let's say mission 8 or so. And mission, like whatever mission you go into like Void after that and you have access to this, you will have like 2 overtures and a punchline for magazine. Because it just takes away from what your last magazine was, even if it was preset to something else. So that system, again, I'm fine with that. It's just like I should be able to customize the normal magazine while I'm in the void, because every time you change your magazine loadout in the void, when you pause the screen, it reloads the void with the enemy. So I thought, why can't I just add breakers to my magazine and fully customize it? It would make it a little bit more easier than having to go back out and go back in. It also helps me bypass the magazine limit of 3, which, my God, how did I not talk about that in gameplay? That was one of the things that bugged me the most. You know, that's just an issue with me. Not being able to spawn multiple enemies at the same time.
Yeah.
I would prefer that.
That would be one of the more easier complaints to do about the void is that you can't actually spawn multiple enemies. You also can't spawn bosses either. So have fun with that.
If you try to spawn them with mods, they T-pose.
T-posing them.
Even mods fucked it up, but yeah. One more complaint that I think this is like a small one is just that whenever I complete the game on a difficulty when I'm playing the last mission, like mission 20, because it's such a good boss fight, and I go into void to practice, a lot of times if I default it immediately switches the game to a higher difficulty. So if I go into void afterwards, it's mapped to a difficulty I'm not familiar with. So this can even be a problem. It's just immediate. Like I consider it a problem that I can't in the void swap the game mode. Like I can see that my game right now is defaulted to Hell in Hell mode because that's what I'm playing through right now, and that's what the enemy and its health will be mapped to. So I can't swap it to DMD and then it like reloads it. Like that's my issue. Like it reloads the magazines, it reloads conditions like the player settings or the enemy settings, like the specific enemy that you're spawning in. Recover your devil gauge, recover your XC, recover your reload charges, unlimited devil breakers, blah 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 blah. It will even reload all of those things and a magazine and the enemy if you want to, but it can't change the game mode. I don't like all the game mode does is just adjusts like enemy aggression for the pattern. If you had like one new move, increased health, increased damage, which damage doesn't even matter because in the void mode you don't take damage.
Did he? Yeah, he did. Okay. So I'm sorry, when you're talking back on, I decided to load up Dead or Alive to play a little bit. Get my ranks in. I'm fighting an S rank right now. That's one of the highest ranks you can do in the game, and I'm winning. And he quit the game. My game is now frozen in the middle of the fucking fight.
We are in the middle of a retrospection of DMC.
I hear you playing in the background. Don't give me shit.
Dude, I'm playing so I can add content to this fucking video. I need more information.
What do you mean you need more information?
Aware of this stuff. I literally need to be refreshed on it because I haven't played DMC5 in like several months.
Seriously fucking... I'm sorry.
Dude, I put 300 hours into this game. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. My memory's a little lazy.
Yeah, he quit. Oh my god.
Anyway, not being able to take damage in Bloody Palace, or not Bloody Palace, Void. That's also a problem for me because then you can't really simulate you being in a more dangerous environment.
I mean, but the whole point is to try and get you in an environment where you're more or less safe.
Yeah, but there should be an option that says take damage or not take damage. That I'm saying that should have been available.
So would you prefer an option like die or not die also?
Well, I guess sure, but just preferably just take damage or not take damage. That way, like a person can like if they want to, they can like practice what it means. They can practice being in like a lower depths of their health bar, so that they can deal with the pressure of being on low health and still trying to like perform under pressure essentially.
Yeah, there's definitely things they could have added, but for a first time though, it definitely did turn out all right.
Oh, and then I think there's like one more negative. These are some ones. It's mainly just further customizability. It's not like that. That's it. Like I think that might be everything. Probably. So, all right. What are the positives? Literally everything in this fucking mode. My goodness. I have the damage values, so I can tell what weapons do as much damage. I can finally figure out for the first time in a DMC game exactly how much damage an attack moves or a move does. Finally, and I can figure out. I can determine whether or not I want enemies to sit there and be a punching bag, or I can make it so that they take damage, so I can figure out on what difficulty they take a significant amount of damage. Which is why I wanted this changed so that I can immediately swap from Son of Sparta to DMD and figure out hey, you can take one Buster breakage or this many of Gerber's breakages or like a caliber with this much or a combination of a set amount of moves and a set amount of damage or how many combos I can do on you, so on and so forth. It makes it so much easier to train and deal with enemies. Another positive of Void, just having a training mode. That just in general was phenomenal. We never had one in the main series before now. I know Bloody Palace doesn't count. Get the fuck out of here. If someone says that, I'm gonna like.
First floor Bloody Palace, Mangler's a training room.
No, Mission 2 of DMC3 doesn't count. I know I said it's designed like a training room. It is, but it doesn't have all the enemies, and it obviously doesn't have the freaking functions of a training room. So. Sorry, you don't get to like laugh that off being there. Even like with the customizability of DMC3, that should have been included. DMC4 definitely. You don't want to say 4 because it was an unfinished game. 4 SE exists, and no changes were made. So, yeah. So yeah, just having a mode is nice. Being able to swap your magazines and everything that you want. Change the enemies, changed it so that they can take actions, spawn any basic enemy, and obviously you can put them at different difficulties if you go in and out of void mode. I prefer if that would have been added, but that's just me. The player settings are also really cool. Make it so that you can recover your devil trigger, which is not. I think Sin. What is it called? Infinite DT. Does Infinite Super Costume actually recover DT?
Yes, if you're using a character who uses DT moves.
Also recover Exceed, which is really nice. I love that. I love that they have automatic and unlimited as well. I've actually never played recover Exceed with automatic. Oh, it just fills up immediately. Yeah, no. That's really nice. That's really nice as well.
Yeah. It doesn't actually keep you forever.
Yeah. So if you want more Exceed, you want to train with using more Exceed to learn the Exceed timings, but you don't want it to be at infinite. Automatic is definitely for you. It can help. It can help newer players a lot. You can unlock this function obviously by being in human mode. Gotta love that. Makes this game so much more accessible. Recovering reload charges. Literally the same thing for automatic. It slowly just fills up, so you can just get used to that. Gotta love that. Just customizability as well as the unlimited devil breakers. Oh my goodness, this pretty much eliminates the problems of being able to train but have to worry about limited resources. So, I love that. I love that so much. Like, I can cycle my breakers and break them, but not have to worry about going and purchasing more money for them. Because until you get into Bloody Palace, there's a lot of people that play through Devil Hunter and Son of Sparta and don't go into Bloody Palace to farm for red orbs. Or to just play through it and end up farming red orbs as a result. It's just a byproduct. And you're like, oh my god, I still gotta dump tons of red orbs into various characters that I'm still getting the abilities of because I might not map into Gunslinger or Kalina, or I might not have all of Cavalier's moves or Dr. Faust's moves. Oh shit, I now have to drop thousands of orbs for 20 Devil Breakers of every type for Nero. This is not feasible. They're just gonna break when I get into the training mode. But then you get into the training mode and you're like, wait a minute. I don't have to waste all my resources?
What even is this?
Good mechanics? What?
That's how it also works with Dante's Dr. Faust hat, right? Like you just mentioned that?
Yeah, well, hang on. Yeah, let me check Dante's scene settings as well. Also, you can jump to player select immediately from there. Great.
I
I
forgot
love
that
that.
actually.
It does take a load. It does take a load screen, which is kind of. Also, that'll be one thing we're going into after Void is load screens, load times. So
I don't think they were all
prepare for
that
that. No. And then I guess super costumes will be the last thing.
bad. Best fucking mechanic in the game.
And we went over the style system, right?
What do you mean by style system? You mean Dante's?
No, not the style like change system, like the way mission rankings and like style.
Yeah, I mentioned those briefly.
Okay. So let me check player settings for Dante. So Dante can recover Royal Guard gauge, recover Devil Trigger gauge, send Devil Trigger gauge, and quadruple S. I gotta say, having the ability to freaking recover your Sin DT, put it in automatic, the same way with all of these except for recover basic DT gauge. This helps so much for people who want to practice. This helps so much. My goodness. Why didn't they add these features in like 4's SE? Like 4 SE, why? Why? Part of me thinks that they just again wanted this. They're like, oh hey, we're gonna market this to a group of people, and we'll just make it like a cheap cash grab and not put any like effort into it. Like why? Why? I don't understand fundamentally what their idea was. But this void mode, the more I play it, the more I tend to forgive 4.
The more I tend to forgive 4. It's like not even the same game, but I forgive you for everything you put me through.
Like I just look at this, I'm like Capcom. The more hours I put into more 4, the more I tend to forgive. Like I criticize them for certain changes to aspects of like Dante's kit per se, but like I still look at them. I'm like, man, oh man, oh man, oh man.
You have redeemed yourself in my eyes, Capcom.
You've redeemed significant problems that you've done in the past. Like, finally. My batteries are getting a little low, so I had to swap out. Royal Guard gauge being recovered, that's the card. I think Royal Guard being made and designed in such a way made it much more approachable in this game, and having the ability, giving the player the ability to customize it in such a way, making it automatic, unlimited, that's great. It's also hilariously fun to just slap enemies with full Royal Guard damage, and for the first time ever, actually factor how much damage Royal Guard does. That along with all of his moves. So Dr. Faust, I don't think, has conditions for saving red orbs, but I could be wrong. I don't have it equipped currently, but I could do that. In just a sec. Can I switch? Yeah, so that is one other criticism I was going to make of the Void that I didn't mention, because I didn't have Dante equipped, is that Dante cannot switch his swords and guns in the pause screen, but freaking Nero can switch his Devil Breaker magazines. That's kind of stupid. So other than that...
Other than that, pretty big fucking deal.
Pretty fucking, quadruple S. Yes. Oh my god. Why isn't this in the main game? This is so good. Having the ability to basically go into Sin DT and test out what combos would look like when you can cancel and recancel Sin Devil Trigger. So good. So good. Delicious. There's nothing better than a smooth animation cancel for fast, non-stop action. You cannot disagree.
No, I agree completely. I don't understand that character at all.
So overall, Void is pretty sweet.
Yeah, Void was a great mechanic. Void was a great thing to add to the game, no doubt. I don't think anyone could complain about Void. Well, I don't think anyone could seriously make solid complaints about Void. You might be able to complain about a couple things they did wrong, or maybe that they didn't add, but I don't think, as a whole, you could complain about the way we got Void.
Well, the complaints that I have towards it are just that they didn't add other things.
Yeah, exactly. It's real.
That were already included. Like again, they can already swap those magazines. I just wanted more customization for the magazines. They already did more than the bare minimum.
Yeah, like it's the situation here is more of like you're gonna be complaining about things they didn't add rather than things that were in the Void itself, which is always
and it wasn't
a
like
good thing.
it wasn't like a significant change. It was mainly just like, yeah, can you allow me to change the game mode so I can more easily, like I can still, if I want to, I can still just exit out of Void and then like just press left bumper or right bumper or L1 and R1 if you're on the PlayStation and just like switch from Sun to Sparta mode to DMD mode or the other one if I want to test damage or strategies that build up damage. My problem is that I just can't do it in the pause screen. It's not that I can't do it. I just think it needs to be a little bit more accessible.
All right, the video currently right now sits at around 2 hours and 25 minutes. So I guess would loading screens be the last? Well, no, we still do expectations set before release. Well, yeah, we're gonna need a separate video.
Well, I think we can still let's try to get the last of the quality of life improvements. So let's see. I would say V also has some nice ones as well. Devil Trigger. Apparently, he has a setting in player settings known as Devil Trigger Time Extension, which reduces consumption of the Devil Trigger gauge. So you can basically test out automatic summons for longer, which is kind of neat. I never really
in Void.
Yeah,
okay,
I never did this because I never trained with V in the Void. I just used taunts and stuff. I just did flare, all that. Nothing special. So yeah, Void is pretty solid. Let's see, 10 out of 10. 12 out of 10. I wish it was a 15.
So like it's just missing a couple of things that would really make it shine.
Super costumes. I think overall pretty solid, I guess.
I'm not the biggest fan that style meter still gets dropped by super costume. I understand that super costumes obviously make the game unfair by a massive degree, but I earned that super costume. Don't fucking penalize me for using what you gave me.
I don't think the penalty should have been that high, but you do need to have a penalty. That super costume's fucking busted. Like, don't even...
If I want to fucking use it to cheese the achievement, I should be allowed to do that. I beat the fucking game.
No, like DMD is a little. Like the thing with me and the super costumes is that I've never considered like. Well, I don't think anyone here would argue that playthroughs of the games with super costumes are very valid or like high difficulty runs. So, I think by proxy, we should be able to agree that like style rankings for them shouldn't be valid either, and thus it seems fair for you to be penalized for using one.
Nah.
Would you agree to that?
No.
Sick. There is one thing. Super costumes for the most part are all right. I do like that Dante's like royal guard gauge does regenerate, and I can just pop people with release over and over again. I just have the fists of fury. I have one issue though, and that's that Nero's. I have a really big problem with Nero's freaking what's it called? His super DT costume. So in 4, when he uses Exceed, he actually has a way to use non-exceeded moves because every move he uses in super costume is max active. Because there are 2 different versions of super costume Nero in DMC4. There's Vanilla 4 super costume and there's SE4 super costume Nero. Vanilla 4 costume Nero does not have max act on every move. He just has an infinite DT. Super costume 4 Nero in SE is like every time he swings, he gets max act. But if he attacks something, if he swings for an exceed and then he jumps out of a move, like mid animation, he can prevent himself from exceeding. Like there are ways that he can do it. Whereas Nero in this game, he's always on max exceed. He has infinite exceed. He doesn't get max act everything. He just has infinite exceed. So every move is exceeded. So I can't do slower moves. So certain combos are completely inaccessible using basic moves. Also, I'm pretty sure, could be wrong about this, but some blue rose setups are also not as accessible because he passively gets his blue rose, his fucking like massive blue rose buffs due to super costume. Like super costume breaks blue rose to a ludicrous degree. Also, the fact that if I'm gonna have a super costume, why are super moves in DT costing DT when I have infinite regenerating DT? I don't get this. I don't understand. Don't do that to me.
It's like, why are you doing this to me? Why is this not making sense?
Why is it when I activate Showdown, a move that takes 1,000,000 years to fire off and requires me to stand still with a DT that barely gives me armor, or less armor than the other DTs? Why? Do I have to like take DT energy for that?
Why are you complaining, Mangler? Be grateful.
And I know you can cancel DT and then like let it regenerate mid animation. That's what I do every time I use Showdown anyway. It doesn't alleviate the problem.
Wait, can you?
Yeah.
I mean, I never actually used most of the DT moves for Nero because I'm more of a basic Nero player.
Basic bitch.
Oh,
what?
I don't want to hear that from you.
Using V, don't tell me.
Listen, you're the king of basic bitches. I don't want to hear it. Or should I say queen?
Oh, look at you, being creative. But there is a first time for everything, I suppose.
Oh, that's funny. Whatever. Not on the video. Not for the kids.
So super costumes. I also like their design. Nero's super costume looks pretty crazy, though he does look kind of creepy with his eyes. That is one thing I don't like. Why are their eyes glowing red?
I kind of like that feature, truth be told. I think that really does show because that's showing like they got more DT energy. I like that. I think that was actually a nice touch.
No problem with like okay, maybe I should rephrase this. Eyes and color. I feel more comfortable if I can see their pupils. Like if they're like red and there's like more of a flare. Their eyes are just like a pale red.
Do they not have pupils? I could have sworn you can see the pupils.
No, I don't think they do. Like I'm trying to scan in on Nero's pupils.
Oh, well, in game, I mean, cut them some slack, Mangler.
I'm in the void. This is even easier to see this.
But Mangler, it's in game. Am
I at the wall?
Yeah, I thought you meant fucking. I thought you meant with the. Ooh. I thought you meant with the actual like artwork, because in the artwork they do have red pupils. I just don't think they do in game.
No. I'm talking about in game. Like I would prefer them to have some pupils, because like.
Well, Mangler, when you gain super demonic power and then you still have pupils, then you can bitch about it.
Dude, Dante in DT has pupils. Don't tell me Nero in DT can't have pupils.
Nero does have pupils. Look at the actual cutscene when he DTs, and you'll see he has pupils. Ooh.
Nice. No. Not in his DT. I'm talking like when they're in base form. In cost. Okay, so when you have a super costume and you're in base form, their pupils, their eyes just glow red, sort of like red, yellowish, a pale red.
Yeah. And
they have no pupils, and I'm like, that's fucking creepy. Like I just want them to have pupils because their DTs have pupil, and their DTs have pupils, and the reason their eyes are even glowing is because they have DT energy. So why the fuck do they not have pupils when their DTs do? I am confused.
Now I'm trying to be confused, man.
Aesthetically, it just creeps me out. That's my problem. It has nothing to do with gameplay. It affects like basically nothing. It's just a minor complaint. Again, guys, design doesn't matter that much unless it's so bad you literally can't see the moves or something. It doesn't affect gameplay. It's just a minor complaint.
It just makes me feel uncomfortable when I'm playing super moves.
Just gotta mention it. So, super costumes, load times. I think that's the last one that we can do outside of. Oh yeah, after that, like moves, and then that specific moves and their improvements from previous games, and that'll be it.
All right.
Okay, so load times.
They're fine. I don't think I had too much trouble with the load times.
So I've had a lot of people complain to me that the load times are atrocious.
What?
I haven't had any. Yeah, I haven't had anyone say, or not that the load times are atrocious. The amount of loading screens are, like the
Are
sheer
there even
amount.
any loading screens in an actual mission?
Yeah,
There are.
there are. Well, not okay. So the whole mission gets loaded between when you start up the first mission. So if I go to mission select, let's say I go to, I guess, mission 20, I'll get the initial mission with the storyboard, which shows the times in between the missions, and then after that gets loaded up, I think there's another mission screen which loads the actual mission. Like, cause this just loads the cutscene. Then you get then you get another mission. Then you get another load screen. You get a total of around usually three load screens. So I guess people are just complaining that there's a ton of them. But honestly, like post DMC5 like updates and bug fixes, load times aren't that terrible.
How many actual
Like
bug fixes were there for DMC5?
I just know they were bug fixes. I don't know what they did specifically.
I don't even remember. Well, how many did we get though?
I think we got like 2 or 3. I know we got at least 2.
Yeah, because I was going to say, because I don't remember all that many actually occurring.
So, I mean, I guess the load times are kind of lengthy. That's a negative, but like not to the point where it's significantly bad. Like I don't think it's really that atrocious. I don't like that I have to do it every single time, but it's not impeding my gameplay progress to the point where I feel like, oh, I can't play this game anymore. Or playing this game is so much more worse than anything I could have experienced in the actual gameplay, or even close to the degree of problems.
Yeah, no, I've never really heard anyone say load times were atrocious. That's a first for me.
Yeah, so next we would have to talk about, I guess, quality of life improvements of the actual like characters and their kits. So we're specifically talking about I guess like changes. This section might take like another 20 or 30 minutes, so be prepared.
Well, do you just want to save this for expectations and then just like finish it off with a separate video since we're fucking already like about to be like 2 hours into this? No, we're about to we're at 2 hours and 37 minutes.
Sure, I guess. We'll
all right, so
that.
I guess just write it down right now. What's left we need to do. So it'll be talking about things that came from other games, and then our expectations, and then we'll be done. And with the DMC5 retrospective, this would have been done a lot earlier, but unfortunately, the world hasn't exactly been the most normal of places recently.
Look, they're suffering the effects of low motivation, and DMC5's Clyfoth broke out into the real world because Kyrie wanted to test out something. That's the best explanation.
She just hated people because not enough people bought DMC5. She didn't like that she didn't get enough DLC to appear.
More sales.
Is this all you have brought me, Tsuno?
You will reap what you sow.
The lives will be on your head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can, seems perfectly legit.
Yeah, so I guess it'll be, next time then that we hopefully wrap this up. Part 5. We are reviewing the entire game in its entirety, so it was going to take at least 3 parts to begin with. So,
my brother was over there telling me one day, like, why are you guys taking so long with this? And I'm like, well, it's the full fucking game. Alright, so with that said, we'll go ahead and end the video here. Thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys on the next stream or video. Let's go ahead and just...